Good morning all, and I call the meeting open at 9:03 a.m. for the Infrastructure Standing Committee meeting today, the 2nd of June 2021. Welcome to all councillors and staff. We do have one request for leave of absence from Councillor Jones. Can we move that, Mr CEO, don't we? Yes, I'll move that. Councillor Duff, thank you. Seconds. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. No further apologies. Call on Councillor Duff now to perform the recognition of our traditional owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to acknowledge country and the land where we meet this morning, the Wakalka land, and acknowledge the elders, both past, present and emerging. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Also like to acknowledge the fact that it's been Reconciliation Week, commenced last Thursday, and pay my respects, I'm sure everyone would agree, to our First Nations peoples, past and present, and very proud to be wearing my Indigenous tie today. And I'd like to acknowledge and thank the Cherbourg Aboriginal Council for their hospitality in accommodating myself and my wife's family last Thursday. We had a very special time in Cherbourg, paying our respects to her ancestors. I'll now move on to declaration of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to declare that my family business holds a contract for supply of services for item 9.1 in the confidential section.
Thank you, Councillor. Would it be your preference that you voluntarily leave, or would you like that matter to be addressed by Council?
If that could be addressed by Council, I don't see my influence as in hindering my ability to make decisions in the best interest of the community, and I understand that report is more for information, but I would rather have my potential conflict noted. So yes, I'd rather Council make the decision if I can stay or if I go.
Sure, thanks, Councillor. On the basis that it would seem that there's no direct interest in this particular matter, other than your husband having a contract with the Stanwell Corporation, I believe, I'm happy to move. Sorry, is it? Oh, sorry, you mentioned names. My sincere apologies. Okay. Well, with the, oh, sorry, this is confidential, so I've slipped up there. My apologies, Councillor. Okay. I'll move that Councillor Shoemaker remain in the meeting. Do we have a second for that? Thanks, Councillor Froloff. Those in favour? Okay, except, do we have to Councillor Shoemaker out for this, Mark? Oh, just for the vote. Okay, thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Thanks, Mr CEO. I know why I've got you on my right-hand side. Okay, so I'll move the Councillor Shoemaker can run the room. I don't think there's a conflict of interest here that's going to compromise their ability to act in the best interest of the public. Do we have a seconder for that?
No. Councillor Froloff.
Councillor Froloff seconded already, so we'll put it to the vote. Are any speakers for or against? Otherwise to the vote? Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you all. Let's get Councillor Shoemaker in. Rightio, so let's move on to 5.1, minutes of the Infrastructure Standing Committee meeting on the 5th of May. They're provided with the agenda. They can be found at page 5. I'll move that the minutes held on the 5th of May be received. Do we have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Froloff. Councillors, any concerns in relation to the minutes? If not, those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 6.1 is the Roads and Drainage Portfolio Report at 15. Just note that Councillor Jones is absent today due to ill health. So as such, can we, it's been provided there, Mr CEO. How do we normally deal with that in the absence of the portfolio holder?
Mr Mayor, if another councillor would like to move and second it, if we could just take it as read and tabled and questions on exception.
Everyone happy with that? That'd be the case. Councillor Potter's moved. Do we have a seconder? Yep, Councillor Henshin, thanks. Questions on the contents of the report from the committee? No? Aaron, you're smiling. Yep. Councillor Shoemaker? Oh, yeah, you're wishful thinking there. Wishful thinking, Aaron. I was too, but anyway, no. Councillor Shoemaker, thank you.
Thank you, and I think you all should know me better. Certainly, good report, lots of things happening. I did have a couple of questions just in relation to the curb and channeling. So I can see there Alfred Street, Kingaroy. I wanted to confirm, is that part of KTP project or is that additional curb and channeling?
Yes, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. So that's not KTP. It's between Thorn and First Avenue, the dilapidated section
Down that way.
down to the west.
Yep. So I can see we're doing curb and channeling in Branston Street, in Bondi, Cobb Street, Mergen, and Gipp Street, Nanango, as well as that section on Alfred Street. And I just wanted to better understand, because I know I have had a few people from Division 4 raise it with me, particularly around like Moore Street, where the curb and channeling ends. I just wanted to understand, how are these areas for upgrade actually identified? Like, what's the criteria that council uses to identify where we put curb and channeling upgrades?
Through Mr. Mayor. The sections that we've put on at the moment is for replacement of curb and channel that's failed. To extend curb and channel within a township is really a priority decision for council in your 10-year program. So one of the things that we've done in conjunction with our reseal program in the last year or two is go through and identify where curb and channel has failed. Also where sections have been cut out and haven't been replaced. We found a number of those up in Councillor Duff's area. So we're trying to work to fixing the curb and channel as we come through and do a bit of road rehab and reseal. We do get quite a few requests for people to extend the curb and channel in areas that it doesn't exist. I think it'll be a decision for council to have a curb and channel extension program as a program would be my suggestion, and then you could fund that on a priority basis if you wanted to.
And just probably more of a technical question, just around curb and channeling, because I imagine it directs the water, like big factor in why you put it there in the first place. Does it actually improve the longevity of the road? Does it offer, other than cosmetic benefits, are there reasons that curb and channeling from an engineering perspective, and I realise I'm putting you on the spot, but I was just trying to understand, in areas where we don't have curb and channeling and there's wash or like, or, is there a benefit to council in extending the life of its roads by having curb and channeling in certain places, or not really?
Through Mr. Mayor, in my opinion, no. That's just my personal opinion. Curb and channel probably does a couple of things. It's there for an aesthetic purpose, so you don't have a table drain, obviously. People much rather have curb and channel out the front of their house generally. That's why it looks better. It's easier to maintain. The one thing it does do, though, is it gets rid of the table drains, which does probably put some benefit to the road. A lot of times, too, is you can't always install curb and channel without possibly upgrading the drainage or stormwater system underneath.
Okay.
So a lot of times where curb and channel becomes expensive is that you've got a table drain area which is an open drain. If you put curb and channel in, then you've also normally got to put a stormwater system with it as well, which is where your money really comes. The other thing is too, with that stormwater system, you've got to be able to outlet it with fall, so it's got to run on gravity, which can be difficult too. Because the stormwater system is underneath the road, it's a bit like what's the same as putting a sewer system in. You can, depending on the size of the drain, depends on what sort of stormwater system you put in. If you go to box culverts and stuff like that, the square ones, very, very expensive systems to do. So really I think there's a benefit to, it's a case by case basis. I think every project should be assessed on its merits of whether curb and channel can be provided, also whether there is a stormwater solution that's available there, that it might be just curb and channel, that's all that's required and we can drain it, and it's just a money issue, as opposed to if there's a major stormwater issue as well. And particularly with overland flow, and I'd say again in many areas where we see areas on sides of hills where there's drains and those sort of things, it needs to be looked at on an engineering basis. So hopefully that
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And probably just a further question to this report. I know I've talked about it a little bit in the past, but I probably want to understand, and certainly through the budget process, I think it's helped a lot. More in terms of how the department or how these areas, being that infrastructure is such a broad, when it comes to service delivery, there's giant milestones in the services that you deliver. Is there a way in which with these reports we could have, like, whether it's your monthly management report or like that demonstrates how you're actually tracking against your budget, like, and how I know that information comes in the quarterly report, but I'm probably looking at just something more on a monthly basis that shows, you know, how the department's tracking against its overall budget. Just really thinking about that continuous learning in this space, and I guess it just informs a better position. It informs us as councillors where we're at next year, and I guess gives us an opportunity to learn along the way. If I'm making sense, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Some sort of something in the report that demonstrates how you're tracking against your budget, because I saw that in last week's quarterly financial report. I think I raised it at last week's meeting, that some projects are tracking under, some projects are tracking over, and all in all, at the end of the day, a lot of it tends to even out, but there are learnings along the way, and I just think having some exposure to that sort of information would be good.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, if council's happy in the next probably 2 to 3 months, we can look to add some commentary around the major programs, similar to what we do with KTP, if you'd like. Obviously, we can put some commentary there. I get where you're coming from. So if the reshedding program is worth $4 million and we're tracking at 2.6, we can put some commentary below the program underneath each of the main headings if that suits. Just probably getting towards Christmas, and I know we're going to talk about the maintenance management system later on. What we were hoping to do is once we get that system up and running, we can give some maintenance metrics inside the report to say this is what we're spending on unsealed roads, this is what we're spending on sealed roads. And that way also how we're performing in some of those areas. So probably we can aim to do some stuff in the capital. If you can give me a month or two, we can get into past the budget. We can probably put to some summary of financial of that program. And then what we'd look to do is implement some maintenance stuff. And also, I know we've spoken to council before about putting up the tracking of how much grading and stuff we've done. We'd like to bring that on in the next couple of months also inside that maintenance system, so we can report how much we're doing, how much slashing we're doing also, so council can see where we're going. So, yep, happy to walk in the next, between now and Christmas, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic. Like, there's a giant amount of work in these reports, and you don't don't always understand how we're actually tracking from that more strategic point of view and which councillors should be working at. So, no, I'd really appreciate some the work that you're doing in that space and some more information to help us track that.
Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed in the capital works, I'm just looking at the list, and I'm on a committee that are looking at that Wondai roundabout. I'm just wondering when it's due to be delivered, what funding bucket that came from, and when that's going to be, when we're hoping to actually, start to do the work on that one. And has there been any consultation around, I know we're talking about what it should look like, but has there been any consultation around with the community on how that should look?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. Sorry.
You go ahead, Aaron, then we'll go to Councillor Henson as the divisional councillor.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise the councillor pressed his
Yeah, no, but if you want to just answer the questions in terms of how that's tracking in terms of the design process,
Yeah.
we might come back to Councillor Henson.
Yeah,
then.
certainly,
Please
Mr.
go
Mayor.
ahead. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. So that project is funded as part of the Bunya Highway median and roundabout upgrade. So that is council money that's put on that project. We're currently in procurement at the moment for the median. So that project will be listed as a fourth quarter for restriction to go into next year's budget to carry. The design's obviously been adopted for the median, so we're seeking a price for that at the moment. I might get James, if I may, to just talk about the construction. I'll give it to councillor. So I don't want to Don't want to step on anyone's.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, could I just interject for a moment there? Just
Yeah, sure, Councillor
on
Hitchin,
an
go
update
ahead.
there to Councillor Duff. There will be an email circulated where we and any councillor, and I'm sure James has been notified as well, we probably repeat what I'm about to say, but there's a Wandai Business Networking meeting on next Tuesday morning that we are intending to organise and get to, and there's been a couple prior to that, but yeah, James, you could probably give us a little bit more on that.
Through you, Mr Mayor, thank you, Councillor Henson. You're absolutely right. We are, off the back of the previous CBD Beautification Working Group meeting, we've worked towards improving the material to undertake further consultation. As Councillor has just identified, we're looking at approaching the business meeting that's on next Tuesday morning to help further advance the material. It is really off the back of what we've already done to date in order to go and engage further with the community. But it is all in alignment with our discussions as well to date, Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just, through you, just wanted to check and make sure, so the design's not bedded down, there's still options for the community to have input on, you know, you're going to come to them with a few options and still negotiate with them, because I've got some feedback about, some concerns about how it might look.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor. So that design will come back through consultation and back to council. So the resolution for that was that we would do further community consultation for the roundabout. So council's made no decisions on the design of the roundabout. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to give their feedback, and that will come back to here for council to make a decision on what you actually want to do.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you. I'm really pleased to hear that, because I think consultation is incredibly important and we need to get it right, because that's a major part of how Wandai looks when you come through there. And so I think the community are wanting to have further say. So I'm really, really pleased that we're going back out to consultation. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, councillors. Just while we're on that, probably just add that as part of that process, I imagine we'll be looking at the whole of life costs, the ongoing maintenance. Councils, all our regional councils are under pressure financially to service our operational demands these days financially. So I guess, GM, that perhaps looking at options such as full concrete or something like that to minimise maintenance costs for our parks and gardens. Are they the sorts of things that we consider in the design?
Yeah, through Mr Mayor. So part of the working group is to have consultation with Peter and Mark and their teams to see what's cost effective, and ultimately it is a hard decision for council sometimes to whether you go for a hardscape or a combination of landscape. So it's probably around what you're happy to service and what you're happy to what look you want as well. So one of the things is probably talking with Mark around what sort of maintenance is required for some of these designs. So very much be council led on what you think is okay in that space.
Yeah, thanks. I drive past is it a hardscape where it's just all concrete? Yeah, we got one of those at the top of Fisher Street on the way home each day, and it's been there for a couple of years. I commend whoever designed that, because it looks brilliant, and no one has to maintain it. It's great, and I don't think it aesthetically really causes a problem, but I guess that's all part of the process of talking to the community and assessing what the costs are. So look forward to seeing that come back through to council. Yeah, thanks, staff. Councillor Henson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I just, and I'm happy to take these questions on notice, probably directed at you, Manager Kevin, in relation to patrol grading, roadside slashing. I note we have T.H. Burns Road at Belogie for roadside slashing. Am I correct in saying that with grading works, a lot of that takes away the slashing avenue?
Just confirming that there's a section on that road that's sealed, that's
around the
bitumen
corner,
sealed.
that's bitumen, yeah.
About a kilometre or so. So that's the section that's being sealed.
Just for other councillors and anybody that's listening, T.H. Burns is 17 odd kilometres through there of gravel, but there is an odd section of bitumen there, which Councillor Duff would be aware of, that is virtually in the middle or in a section of that obviously our slasher guys have to go up and do, which is probably a little inconvenient. And the other question is, in the Chipinga area, we have roadside slashing on the Chipinga on the Burrabri Road, and it's a similar road. And on that as well, we have marked here Bassingwaits Road. Can I just, and this is the question probably on notice, Bassingwaits Road is a road off the Burrabri Road that runs through a couple of properties. Is just the ends of that being graded because it's, I think, designated like an old stock route years ago, but there's properties on either end of it. So the question is it just the southern and the northern ends of that Bassingwaits Road that will be graded?
Councillor, I'll just have to take that on notice. We do have our supervisor for slashing coming in a bit later, and we can confirm that. But as a general rule, if there's a sealed section, regardless of whether it's within an unsealed section, that's where we'll be slashing.
No, thanks very much. Yep.
Righto, thanks, Kevin. Any other questions in relation to the report from the committee? If not, no lights on. Okay, we'll put that up to the vote then. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thanks all. Okie doke. So we're on to 6.2, which is at page 23. That's the South Burnett Town Entry Monuments farewell signage. Okay, James, back up to the podium. Would you like to talk us through that? Thanks, James.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The farewell signage for the town monuments is a project that Council's been working on for a period of time now, and in the process of rolling them out across the towns. An item that's been raised through Council and through some members of the community is around the vacancy on the back of those monuments and what opportunities there are to help complement the signs that are there, what can really provide that as a point of difference, as an exit message out of those towns. But then what can we do to also complement the branding of those monuments at the same time? What we've sought to do is look at the particular elements of each of the monuments, and what we've drafted is a series of options based on the Nanango monument for consideration today, looking at the strengths and possible weaknesses that each of them present. Each of them have subtle differences on them as well, just to help understand what particular aspects we like with each of the options. If there is one option we have the ability to go with, that would be, would be great because we have something to work with. But if we're looking at strengths across a number of options, we have the ability to go back and consider that further as well. Should the council want to proceed with this project into the future as well, because at this point in time we're only looking at the design component. In order to go and facilitate the rollout of these will require additional time and budget to support this. But the three options that are before you on the screen, option A is just the theme of Nanango as a pioneering theme, so that is on the back of the three panels. The corporate colours have the farewell from on the left-hand side down in the brown basement, with the watermark of the carpet python connecting the Waka Waka connection to the region, which is also on the front of the monument, but then also the Waka Waka country. Option B is subtly different again, where we've looked to put the corporate colours and the first half of the sign up onto the panels, but then looking to slide the Waka Waka connection across onto the left-hand side, but maintaining the carpet python in the central area of the base of that monument. And then option C, we've gone for something slightly different, where we've continued with the corporate colours up on the panel, but looking to modify the message around farewell from the South Burnett as a point of difference from the first two options, just to help understand that there are options to council on how we can proceed with this. All three align with the front, with the remainder of the monument, and as such, looking to put this material forward for further noting by council, and any guidance in being able to proceed with this would be appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, James. I'd like to probably just step in here. What I'd like to perhaps put forward here is a change to the recommendation. Out of respect for the traditional owners of our lands, upon which we're fortunate to live and operate and prosper. And I think it's appropriate that we consult extensively right across our region, from east to west, north to south, with our First Nations people, before we really get into any deep conversation or give any guidance on this. It's a matter of extreme sensitivity. As you know, I'm very well connected through family and friendship to many Indigenous people, and I do know it's a particularly sensitive matter, and I really would like to see us handle that in such a way that we consult them with all due respect. So that being the case, what I'd actually like to move is that Council note the options available and seek input from the traditional owners across the region prior to bringing a report back to a future standing committee meeting. I'm happy to leave that open, gentlemen, because I'm not sure it might take longer than we expect to do that consultation with our traditional owners. But, if it takes a few months, I'd rather we take our time and get that right. So I might just check that, Linnell and Mr. CEO. I might just get you to check that motion. You're comfortable with that in terms of wording, etc.?
Mr. Mayor, with the only question I would have, and it's probably again more grammar, certainly supporting the intent. Would we go for traditional owner, which would just be Walker, or are we asking all First Nations? Because
Traditional owners of this land, there are boundaries around
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Southern
yeah.
region which come across different First Nations
so
people.
we're just consulting with the Waka Waka.
Yeah, no, we're consulting the traditional owners, which is beyond Waka Waka. Yeah.
So I'm getting it. We've got different groups that do live within the community as well. So do
Yeah.
we want to just? That's what I was
there-
meaning. Do you want just First Nations, and they're all specifically traditional owners?
Traditional owners.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
there are other First Nations people at the south of our region who aren't Waka Waka, and there is some deliberation over where Waka Waka boundaries are. Probably reticent to discuss it too much at this stage because these matters are being dealt with by the Indigenous community and the relevant authorities. So at this point in time, I'd probably just like to leave it broad if we can. Thanks, Mr. CEO. So I'll hereby move that. Do we have a seconder for such? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Speakers for or against the recommendation, the motion? Councillor Henson?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. It's not so much a for and against, it's just a comment that I'm fully supportive of this recommendation, but has it been considered that in what the consultation comes up with, that why can't we incorporate both the South Bernard and the Waka Waka country or our traditional owners on this one sign? For argument's sake, farewell from Waka Waka country, the South Bernard on the one side. That's sort of...
Yeah, and I think the intent here is just to get the view of the traditional owners. Staff can then come back, and obviously councillors, if you've got those views, I'd imagine, James, happy if councillors provide those views through to you, Aaron, so you can take that on board as part of that ongoing consultation.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, I'd be happy to seek any feedback from anybody in that space around messaging. We can always come up with some changes to the sign, I suppose, based on that. So, yeah, happy to take feedback. If you just email James directly with your feedback, or welcome to come and see us.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Anyone else? Councillor Potter?
Yeah, thank you. When we did these original signs up, sorry, through you, Mr Mayor, when we did these original signs up, I thought we did a lot of consultation with the Cherbourg Council and the Waka Waka people with regards to the front of the signs. So wouldn't that work just come naturally for the back of the signage? If you've already got that permission to use the snake and everything like that, wouldn't that permission automatically come through from that?
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, we might... Councillor Duff might be better to answer in our consultation than us.
Thanks, Aaron. Councillor Duff?
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, that consultation was just about the snake and the owl. It was nothing about actually stating Waka Waka country. So the snake and the owl are the symbol of Waka Waka country, but I just think that beyond that, we need further consultation because we're actually, and as the Mayor said, at this point, it's a sensitive issue because there's still negotiations around whether some of the areas are indeed Waka Waka country. So I just think we need to be careful at this point, and it's a sensitive issue, and I'd like to see it. I agree with the Mayor that we need to leave it until we do further consultation.
Councillor Shoemaker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd certainly like to acknowledge the work that's gone into putting something on the table for council to consider. I do like the acknowledging Waka Waka country as you're leaving our region. And certainly I look at those 3 pillars where the pictures are that are identical to the back, and I'd love to see or have some discussions about whether, there's a specific Indigenous print or piece of work that we might be able to replicate on the back of some of that signage that aligns with Waka Waka country. And also in my conversations with Uncle Eric Law, I understand there's been significant work done. I was really thrilled when the Mayor mentioned around reconciliation. My daughter actually brought home a list of words from the school, which are all in Waka Waka language, and she's learning them and really, really interested. She's only 8 in learning that language. So I would love to see us somehow on the back of these signs, if it's the farewell part, somehow just acknowledge goodbye in Waka Waka language. So I understand there's a fair bit of work, and I imagine it's up to us as a council team and councillors. Certainly, Councillor Duff, you've got a lot of connections in Cherbourg and a lot of connections around the Mergen area as well. So it'd be great to somehow work with you to bring some of this feedback to the table. I think Uncle Eric would be a great place to start. And certainly I think an opportunity maybe to, I think on the front, when I look at those different signs, we've really acknowledged what first settlement, what our major industries and things are in the different areas across different towns across the South Burnett. So I'd love to see us think about, on the back of those pieces, we've got some incredible local Indigenous artists like Venus Rabbit and the like, who might be able to help us with actually doing some murals or something on the back of those. So I understand there's probably a lot more to discuss in terms of maintenance and those sorts of things, but I think this is a great start. I think it's great that Council's talking about the backs of those signs. I know we've all copped a lot of flack over that, and it's great to inform our community that we are looking at that and working on a plan going forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to cease the conversation on this now as the authority of the Mayor, so I won't be taking any more comments. I'll finish by saying that the intent of the motion is to broadly canvass the traditional owners right across the region, from boundary to boundary, east to west, north to south. This isn't just about the Mergen, Cherbourg end, it's about traditional owners at Blackbutt, Geelong, across all the lands of our region, which we need to be very cognizant of that. And I have every confidence that our staff will handle that consultation with the greatest respect and sensitivity towards the traditional owners who have been on these lands for many thousands of years, and we need to acknowledge and respect that appropriately in the consultation. And I have every confidence you fellas will do that. So thank you. Okay, let's put this to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, let's move on then to 6.3 at 31, which is the KTP update. And welcome, Project Manager Alan. Thanks for coming along in today. Good to have you, and we're all yours. Take us through it. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll just quickly flick through the report and highlight some issues around program progress and emerging risks, and then just answer questions if that's okay. No doubt, as you're aware, the works are progressing along Alfred Street, and there's a lot of activity around the Glendon Street roundabout at the moment. The team's pouring curb as we speak, and it was great to see Greg Kilkenny, who is in a transition to retirement, coming back just to help the new team members do that curb and channel. So he's just done that out of commitment to past team members and helping CJ, who's our young or your, should I say, young concrete superstar, and that's really good to see. And again, it's just a little milestone to get that curb and channel, the next section completed, which then allows the footpath to proceed. So progress has been quite good. We did slip a little bit through the April-May period, and we're probably about 1 to 2 weeks behind where we ideally would like to be. Mainly that was, and we've done a review since, with the proliferation of public holidays, which are great, but slow progress down. And we had a number of the teams, like our Hull Concrete team, for example, had a week away, so that did slow progress down. We have engaged additional resources over the last 4 to 5 weeks, so we've got Armstrong Concrete is on with 3 of their concrete finishers in particular to allow 2 concrete faces to be undertaken. So, like for example, today the council team's working on curb and channel while the concreters are still getting ready for the next pour, which will be done tomorrow, weather allowing. Electrical services team as well, and also another civil construction team. So we're also looking and talking with local suppliers just as to what other resources might be available to just speed the progress up a little bit. It is very tight, the market at the moment, and particularly coming up to the end of the financial year with main roads and other funding programs having requirements to be spent to the end of the financial year. There's a few highlights there. I think we've probably all got across them pretty well. Good to get the footpath open up in Alfred Street. I was down there one Saturday morning a couple of weeks ago having a coffee myself and ran into Aaron and Jess Kerr from council, and they were enjoying a coffee, albeit a bit cool on that day, but it was good to see that footpath activated, and that's a great outcome from the project. The photo there, the next one's just of the maintenance strip, a bit of work we did in front of Asian Gourmet Chinese restaurant, just to show the complexity of some of the concrete work. In terms of progress, we've got a detailed table there from an item by item perspective. Happy to take any questions around that, but it's just a visual of progress across the various aspects. Of course, as we move on, that changes from a day-to-day basis, but as I said, progress is still proceeding generally as per plan. Program expenditure with Alfred Street, contract 6 or stage 6 as we call it. We're travelling at about 99% of budget, so our EFC is slightly below budget, which is really encouraging. We have got that variation. Actually, I think I put that in the wrong column. Currently estimated at 25,000 for the traffic signal alterations that we spoke about last month. There were some additional work that were required when they got onto site. However, we used the council's contract resources to do the trenching, so there'll be an offsetting cost. So MI Electric do that under the RMPC contract that they currently hold with DTMR, and it's a time and cost basis. They'll be back this Friday to do some night works to complete that work. So so pretty comfortable with that. We're keeping a very close eye on estimates. So we've got an update this morning, and as at close of business yesterday, we were at 2.649. So we're spending around that 110 a week, and that's slowly increasing. As we see some of those more expensive items like streetlight poles, asphalt, for example, you get a big jump in a very short time. So whilst a weekly expenditure does seem, a bit light on, when we hit those high value products, they'll certainly see a big jump up there. So we have done the budget amendments with the respective managers, and I presume that'll come back to your finance committee. So I've worked with Kevin and Lowy on that, so that's all sorted. Probably just jumping on project risks and variations, one of the things I identified there last month, and it did come to a bit of a head, was the PVC water pipe. the lead time on that's extended out to 8 to 10 weeks. So we did an internal design review and have been able to come up with a different class of material, which is more readily available, still has a serviceability and is in the appropriate place, highly suitable. Worked with Lowy and the designers and the wastewater team to come up with, I think basically the product is largely available, and if not delivered this week, will be delivered early next week. So that'll allow us to speed up that progress. But it is increasingly, and in the industry, not just civil construction, but building industry, I think, Kirsty, you might have mentioned that, building materials, products, there are some challenges around some aspects of that. Concrete pipes hasn't changed. If anything, it's probably got a bit worse. We're still talking 20 to 26 weeks, not affecting our project. We've got everything ordered well ahead, but subdivisions and the like, I'm hearing around the place that it's impacting their ability to deliver. So, probably just a couple other risks there. I did mention in the report, and just, you'll see on the street, one of the challenges we're facing is the shallow depth of Telstra and NBN existing conduits and cables. So we're working, and I've had a number of discussions with their delivery teams as to just how we manage that when we come across it. So we've had a couple of circumstances there where the conduit itself as little as 40 to 50 mil below the ground surface. A lot of other occasions it's 100 to 150. And if you walk around the street, you'll see the depths is 0.15, 0.2. So it's a big risk for us in terms of construction activity, but it's also a challenge for us to make sure we've got to construct around that, and it does certainly create a lot of physical challenges and old cables that are not known and not shown on plans. That we need to manage around, which we do on a daily basis. So it's a credit to the guys to work around that, but it's kind of risky when we're flying with optic fibre and things like that. So just jumping on the forward program, we're continuing around the Glendon Street roundabout, and the program will continue along Alfred Street heading east. So the concrete teams are working on the southern side of Alfred Street now. They'll finish that off and then come up to the Glen Street roundabout corner, and we'll get this northern side completed, and then continue down the southern side of the Glennon Street roundabout, and then continue along Alfred Street. We are looking and working with our local contractors where possible to see what capacity they have to come on and speed that up a little bit with demolition in particular. And that just allows our crews to roll a little bit better, so we sort of have defined tasks and they're not working on top of each other, but we're not opening up too big of area either. So it is, but as I said, it is tight at the moment. Most local contractors, and I think most contractors generally around are through to the end of the financial year fairly tight. Hayley Street water main, we did have it programmed to start on Monday night as night works, but due to the delay in materials, we'll probably have to push that back. We're meeting with the contractor this week just to firm up what that's going to look like for them, as well as looking at the best way to deliver that with the minimal impact. So we'll confirm all that with all those impacted businesses. And being in night work, the impact is minimised, but it obviously does have an impact in terms of some parking closures and a bit of reinstatement work. We've spoken with Swickers just to manage traffic and supply into Swickers during that period, and they're going to work with their contractors, pig carters, to just get them to travel around the site if need be. But we've got a plan in how to manage that. So I mentioned about the traffic signal there. Comms and consultation, we sort of list of specific consultations there. We're meeting daily with impacted businesses and getting feedback, and generally it's been positive. That acknowledge, as we did right from the word, there's some impacts during construction, but certainly Tom Osenhutter, Gatherer, Trader, they're very excited about the use of the footpath and the activity. So that's that side. Probably just one to highlight. We've booked in a visit with the Business Network next Tuesday morning at 6:30, just to give him a project update. And it was working in with each of the other groups to get a time that suits the team around one of their meetings. So that was just, provide them with an update on the project generally and how the, particularly how the regionalisation aspects of it will link back to them. So I know, Kirsty, you'd asked for a bit of an update. That only got confirmed this morning, so sorry for the short notice. Just a quick heads up, our project ambassador, he's had a situation that's taken him out of circulation for a few weeks that we haven't had any of those walk-arounds for a little while now. So he's just not available right at the moment. And when he's back in available, we'll get him walking around. And probably just a key summary, a key achievements and facts summary. Like I said, we've got the footpath open with the 2 raised planters, with the concrete part of that done. The street was reopened on Friday the 21st of May. Probably just, Haley Street temporary car park up there. That's was up there yesterday, and we had 15 cars parked in there. So we're seeing a little bit more utilisation of that. We'll circle back on that again and just touch in with the businesses in that area and see if we can get their employees, using that park rather than the on-street parking, and particularly parking in front of somebody else's business. Bit of an update out there on procurement. We've had 56 at the time had gone out. There's been a number since then, and we're going to, real value of product being supplied back through local suppliers. Big shout out to our local electrical suppliers, Haymans, who've been very, very good to deal with and worked with us where we've had to pivot for some design change requirements, and they've been able to replace product at no cost increase to the project. So they've been exceptionally and have been very, very competitive, which is excellent to see. So and that probably sums up my quick report. Any questions?
Thank you, Alan. Any questions, councillors? Comments on the update? Anybody? Councillor Hitch.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, some of these printers need a bit of a magnifying glass on it, but no, it's only a query and I can understand what the answer will be, but we have work orders, purchase orders for Telstra pits 3 times, and 2 of those are 100% complete and one's 90%. Could you just allude a little on that, Al, please?
Yeah, so just that's in the 3-week look ahead. Probably one of engineers' sort of mistakes is having complicated things that mean a lot to us, or maybe not a lot to other people. But on the left is the contract, so 6, 7, and 8. So the Telstra pits would be 100% completed in stage 6, which they are. So and then the one at 90% would be contract 8, which is the that 90% is probably not right either, but so 6 is a section from Youngman Street to the crossing adjacent to the roundabout. Stage 7 or contract 7 is the roundabout including the crossings, and then stage 8 is everything east of that. So all of the Telstra pits around the roundabout have been, the concrete infill lids have been put back in place, and as we come through and concrete the footpath, the actual concrete infill part of that gets done. Stage 8 is on the eastern side of that pedestrian crossing. I think they've done a little bit of work there, and they're due back. Must be 7th of June. So.
Good. Thank you, Alan. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just on page 33, there's a picture of a image of a garden bed at Asian Gourmet with freshly laid concrete maintenance strip. So that is a very large, to me it looks like a very large garden. Just a couple of questions. One is we are currently struggling with our parks and gardens, it's my portfolio, and we're trying to reduce maintenance, and that's why I've been talking about roundabouts, trying to get concrete as opposed to gardens, and the same with our median strips. We're talking about turning some of those grassy median strips into concrete. So we with this, we're taking away car parks and we're making more gardens. So my question is it possible as we move forward, because I'm presuming that we're going to have more of these through the CBD of Alfred Street as we move forward with the project, is it possible to reconsider these big garden beds which are taking up car parks, to change the design scope to lessen the work with parks and gardens, and also to increase because I've had some feedback about the loss of car parks. So that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, General Manager.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So just with the parking on that one there, the reason why that is so large there is because the car parking has been taken away because of the crossing that's there. So it's basically you can't reverse the vehicle back over where people cross. So that's why they've been brought up to engineering standards. So that's why they're wider. So if we were to reduce that, we wouldn't be able to put car parking there anyway. Just with the gardens in there, we have a landscaping plan for the project, which we've come up through with the Parks and Gardens team. Happy to talk through with Mark and the team around options to make those gardens more efficient. Obviously, they've got irrigation inside them, which means that they don't have to be watered. So that's a significant time saver for the gardens within the CBD. Our discussions originally as part of that project by putting that irrigation in there, and obviously council's trying to improve some of its gardens through its CBDs. We'll be looking to put in the low maintenance style plants similar to what we've put into the roundabout at Rogers Drive, where it's just basically flowers and it's an irrigation system. So they'll have a plan for maintenance for the CBD. The rest of the plants is obviously tree maintenance through the year, which will have a tree maintenance plan as well, where they'll be able to do that on a seasonal basis. So hopeful that it'll be managed by the Parks and Gardens team in line with what they've asked us to as part of that design consultation that we had.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just so the other question is has there been consultation around where these gardens are going? Do all the businesses know that where the gardens are going and which car parks they're losing? Has that been articulated to the business owners? Because I'm not 100% sure that it has been. That's my just question. Thank you.
Councillor Duff, through you, Mr. Mayor. I can't answer specifically on every business and every garden, but every business has been directly consulted with the plans and a clear discussion on the requirements for the safety and regulatory requirements in reduction of parking, which is the sole driver of the parking losses. And in terms of the specific, if they know there's a garden in front of their business, I can't answer that for every business. You know, we've provided the plans, we've directly consulted on numerous occasions. Not sure. Yeah, that's what we've done. Talking about the project and the outcomes, you know, they have all received a pack, so they have, you know, a plan to review. So that's what we've provided.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we were using. I thought I was of the impression we were using the Mergen model to help with the businesses, and the Mergen model was where we were doing constant consultation with the businesses and understanding the impact. And I was, as a divisional council, I was working closely with the project manager to ensure that we were, managing that. And I'm just not seeing that with this project. I'm just noticing, I've been talking to some of the business owners and I'm just thinking they're worried. And I'm just thinking that we need to probably ramp that up a bit more, particularly the ones that are where we're coming to, because they're seeing that it's taken so long. They're worried about their future viability because they're seeing the length of time and they're worried. They're really worried. There are businesses that are worried. I also had a lady, just declaring this, that I went into Kingaroy to Woolworths, and I don't often shop in Woolworths, but I had a lady came out to me and she just wanted to declare to me that she was a beautiful young woman with 3 little kids, and said that she was incredibly concerned about the loss of car parks in Glendon Street and also Alfred Street, because she has a business and she has to get her kids, the same as Councillor Shoemaker, and she was worried that with the loss of car parks that she was going to be struggling. So, and she wanted to congratulate me for actually considering changing the scope to increase the number of car parks. So I just wanted to let the council team know that.
Any comments before we go to other councillors? Aaron, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, happy to take the feedback, councillor. Understand the consultation. I actually had a chat with the local newspaper yesterday afternoon around how we can probably make better use of hard print on the back of our discussions yesterday, of getting that information out to the rest of the community that don't do that. So, don't use, when I say don't do that, don't follow Facebook, if that makes sense. So, and it was quite, I think there's an opportunity for us to take feedback from all parties, I suppose, of community and also businesses, and look and see how we can improve that going forward. So we'll pass that on to the team, that if we need to do a bit more consultation, both also with the businesses, but also with the broader community, we are looking to put some hard print out around the project and some of those things. So very happy to take the feedback, councillor. We'll put that back to the team there, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. That's great. Councillor Potter?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I think this is great. I think the project is fantastic. Now, I've actually been around with some of the project people with regards to visiting the businesses, and Councillor Shoemaker has as well. So every business has been gone into, we've had a chat to them at the very start before we even started the project. And I think the big thing here is when people come up to you, we must make sure we tell them to go in and see the project office, because they have the plans, they can tell the people exactly what's happening. And a lot of people think that even, we're taking away the car parks because we want to. A lot of it is purely because, as Aaron said here, we can't reverse over a car park. So, which is why, where there's a pedestrian crossing, we're going to lose the car park anyway. But I think the other issue here is that the big thing is that we really need to let the community know with regards to the disabled car parking, the green spaces, the green parking and things like that. So people with disabilities, people with prams and families, and I think this is the big thing that we need to let people know. So so for every disability car park or green car park, what are we called? What are they called? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so right, so, but the fact that we've got so many disability parks and people with disability parking, I think that's fantastic news, because the community spoke to us about that, and that's what we need. But yeah, so as long as we let people know to go into the office, to chat to the staff in there, to Christy and Luke, I think that's one of the biggest things, because they can explain to the people exactly how things will be. Thank you, Ms.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks, Paul. I know that people that have gone in have come away and said, that's helped a lot, just getting that first-hand information from the staff. So I think it's a really good suggestion. Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Duff, I take your feedback and your comments on board, but have we not been sitting in the same room since June 2020, when the announcement was made that we were getting the Building Better Regions Fund grant approval, and we've worked through, when we talk about the green design, the green infrastructure is the future. And yes, definitely, we've had conversations about a council about being really deliberate with the places in which we put green infrastructure, where we're maintaining gardens and where we're not. Absolutely. So this plan, this scope, this design has been endorsed by this council, and we've got people out in the street already building off that plan. From what I'm hearing, and if I'm hearing you correctly, you're proposing changing the design, scope and plan, which would be an enormous risk to this project, in my opinion, when we're already building it. Concrete's being ordered, materials are being ordered and stockpiled. If we stop now to revisit where we're going to put parks and where we're going to put gardens, I believe we were all in the room when these plans were brought forward. We each got a folder full of information. I've got every single picture of every single plan, because we sat in this room and we've discussed this. So I'm probably a bit confused why we're revisiting some of these things. I'd also like to note on the key fact sheets, and I'd welcome anybody to go online and have a look at Council's website if they do have questions about the project. You know, and by all means, I'd encourage my councillors to my team to review some of these, because I have, and it's been really excellent to see how we're actually tracking, when you get reports like these, how we're tracking toward achieving some of those outcomes. And what the team have said this morning about people meeting and having coffee on the street, definitely there is definite disruption. And, you know, I know how hard everyone has worked to try to alleviate that. I understand there's been great learnings from Mergen, which has put us in a good place. And it's great to hear, I know through the community reference group meeting yesterday, there was a mention of a construction passport and some of the work that the team's doing to try and encourage residents, even though they can't park right out front of the shop, to actually go in and still spend money. And I know spending some time in the music shop, the nail shop, our local businesses definitely need our support now, even if that means you have to walk around the corner. I'd like to point out, and you can have a look at these fact sheets, it says there will be an increase in disability parking from 6 to 30 designated bays, which will ensure that no person with a disability will have to travel more than 50 metres to any shop within the CBD. I think that is an excellent outcome. I'd also like to acknowledge that there will be an introduction of designated parking for elderly and patrons with prams, providing safe ramp access to the footpath. And you're absolutely right. As a mother of 2 small children, I'm fully supportive of that. There's activation of the streetscape with addition of fully accessible for all people, al fresco dining and build-outs. And I know we've talked about, the team has done some incredible work meeting with people talking about inclusivity, actually challenging ourselves to think, yep, what are the things we need to do as a council to make sure people with disabilities, people sitting in wheelchairs, can sit with their families on the street just like you and I do. I'm sorry, and actually, no, I won't apologise. The reality is this project, the enormous economic impact that it's having right now, right as we speak, as well as the long-term economic impacts, I think will far outweigh any negativity that comes from this chamber. And I am disappointed in us as a council. We really need to get behind our team here and stand united. We're in this together. We're absolutely in this together. The decision, some of these decisions, Councillor Duff, were made well before this council was actually even elected. The decision to go after funding, to go after these changes in our community. You've been here, you've been a part of these decisions. I really worry that we're actually tarnishing a project that is so fabulous for our community, so fabulous for our region, for our growth and prosperity with this brush, and we're going to get hung up over absolutely loss of car parks. That cannot be avoided. I wish it could. I wish there were other things we could do. But the reality is, to make it safe for pedestrians to cross the road, to tackle the issues that we've had up here on Hayley Street, and people have seen, people have died on that corner because of the current issues with our CBD landscape, with the way in which our roads are, our footpaths are, they don't meet standards. This will mean that we meet standards. And yes, unfortunately, it does mean the loss of car parks. And that's disappointing, but the great thing is that we've got a team working on the George Street, King Street car park. We've put some temporary car parking in, and I certainly think it's front of mind. We want to fix that problem. We will do everything we can to fix that. I'm just very disappointed that we're having this conversation. You've been in the room since June 2020. and we're still having this conversation. When will it end? When will we just get on with it and support our community in moving forward? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm absolutely taking full responsibility because I believed that the consultation process was robust. I thought that the community was aware, but it's not this is not my division. I just took it on good faith, which was a mistake. I should have just prosecuted and looked at myself and talked to the businesses myself because I thought that people were aware, that the business owners knew that they were losing 91 car parks. I thought that everyone knew that there was going to be 28 car parks lost in Glendon Street. So I apologise to the community for not being more robust and going out there myself, as opposed to just trusting that the powers that be, the people who are managing this, the glossy magazine and the glossy thing that they were giving out to everybody, that everybody understood the impacts. So I take full responsibility for that. I was part of this, but I assumed the same as just how other councils assume that when I'm in Division 5, that I'm looking after those Mergen people and making sure that they are fully aware. And I walked the streets 3 or 4 times at least, up and down with the project manager to make sure that everyone was happy with the colours of the concrete, everything. And I worked like robustly with the project manager to make sure the impact of the businesses was minimised. I understood, they understood, we shared the information, and I'm finding out now that the people, they didn't even know that they were going to lose this amount of car parks. A lot of them don't, they're worried, they're concerned. So I apologise to the business owners, I apologise to the community for being asleep at the wheel, for just assuming that all this consultation had already been done. So, yeah, show me under the bus because I was part of this. But I'm frustrated because now I can see that this project, the same as happened in Nanango, that the business, if you walk down the streets of Nanango now, the business people will say, a lot of them say, we wish this hadn't happened. So what my concern is that when we finish this beautiful, what you're saying is going to be a magnificent project, that a lot of those shop owners won't be there for a start because I've talked to a couple of them seriously considering closing. And even in Mergen, we lost one business and I got blamed for that, just with and it was a small project and this is a massive project. So what could happen is that this operation could be a success, but the patients could die. So we could have this beautiful, magnificent streetscape and all the businesses like just closed or having to move or whatever. So that is my concern. So yeah, I take full responsibility for it, but the conversation is not going to end because the people are going to see the outcomes of loss of car parks and things that they are incredibly concerned about. So I'm challenging this council to reconsider, to look at things differently and to consider the community. So that's why I'm not going to apologise for sharing the views of the community in this chamber. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Yeah, councillors, this is there's a lot of emotion attached to this, and as there should be. I know there's a lot of work's gone into it by previous council, and a lot of people have got a lot of interest in it, and there's a lot of hard work. And I do acknowledge the work Aaron, you and your team have done. I know you've put a mountain of work in, and Alan and Christy, and getting out and consulting with the community, and you've had a tough job. It's really hard to engage with people these days, and we talked about it yesterday about the print media and trying to get some more print media out there. Not everyone reads what we put on our website. So, yeah, certainly don't want the staff to feel as though you're not doing your job. I think we all acknowledge you're doing a great job, and I applaud you for that. Thank you very much on behalf of our council. I think let's keep having these conversations. Having this debate. I know there's a motion, but we can try and let's continue to do that in a respectful manner. I'd be really grateful if we can continue to do that. That'd be great, and deal with the issues at hand. So anyway, Councillor Henshin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would think, and thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. There was an extremely robust conversation here held yesterday morning at 8:30 with the Transformation Project, with many people in the room here yesterday that are here today. Unfortunately, as you know very well, I couldn't attend the meeting that you went to, Councillor Duff, and you couldn't attend the one here. We can't be in two places at once. To suggest that Nanango people aren't happy with their transformation there, I think is a little bit of an insult, not only to the people in Nanango, but I think to the council that did the work there. I find that a little bit hard to swallow. The work that's gone on here, as Councillor Shoemaker has alluded to, has been in the pipeline for over 12 months, and it's been sitting in this chamber for that time. And to come to the chambers now and express your concerns about a project that we have sat in on all these meetings, and the consultation I've had and the comments I've had from people, they want this. If I can go back 30 odd years to the last major thing that would probably happen in the CBD in Kingaroy, was when they put the pavers down on the footpaths. Councillor Shoemaker, correct me if I'm wrong. When that happened, yes, and sorry, Councillor Potter, when that happened, there was considerable debate about how wonderful it would be and how it wouldn't be wonderful. People's high-heeled shoes were going to get snapped off. They laid those pavers in the street, and to this day, people are still complaining about them. So if you want to listen to the complainers, they'll complain about anything for the rest of their life. So this project is absolutely sensational. The biggest project this council and this region's probably taken on in their time that I can recall, and I've seen a bit go on in Kingaroy and the South Bernardine time. Your streetscape in Mergen, Kathy, Councillor Duff, I'm sorry, it was absolutely fantastic. So how much consultation was there? Probably the same amount that's gone on here. We had a fantastic meeting here yesterday, and it's been talked about, and Mayor, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's going to be improvements made with the media releases. There's going to be more communication, more articles put out there that exactly what's happening. But that's been happening the whole way along. This has been fantastic, and an absolute credit to everyone behind the scenes here that's designed this, and it's there, it's happening. How wonderful is it? It's happening. So, I'm sorry, Councillor Duff, but you're going to get some serious resistance on this.
Councillor Froloff.
Thank you, Mayor. I totally agree with Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Henson and Councillor Potter on this. We've been through it. We're doing it. Just stick to it. Don't change anything. And Councillor Duff, if there's been businesses complaining, can you give the names of the businesses to the people and they can talk to them? That would help. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks, Councillor Froloff. Any other councillors before I wrap up? No? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, look, Mr Mayor, I've listened to the discussion here today and I've got the engagement summary here. I just want to say I am a little offended with the comment asleep at the wheel. I do not feel like, well, if you're asleep at the wheel, certainly I don't feel like any of us councillors have been asleep at the wheel. We've challenged and questioned and had robust time we've requested extra reports. We've had the report that we've got here today is exceptional. It shows that we've got a finger on the pulse. We are watching this project closely because we all know how important it is that it's brought in on time and on budget, and how hard our team is working to deliver on that. You know, this is an excellent report. It demonstrates just the maturity of our project management systems and how, and I know I'm very excited about the upcoming report around maintenance management because I know there are enormous wins to be had there. You said successful operation, but the patient dies. Well, my comment to you is, well, what happens if we don't do this? Our town is really tired. Really tired. People are falling over. Councillor Potter has had people fall over in the street. I know a lovely lady who actually broke her glasses in the street. Things have, you know, my challenge to you is, okay, you've got issues with, and you were asleep at the wheel and all the comments you've made this morning. Well, what guidance and leadership do you suggest we as a council, what do we take from that? Because we could sit here and complain all day, and I could definitely find things about the project that, you know, yeah, if I wanted to be critical, you could change that tree, you could change that colour, that one might drop leaves, that one might not. There are plenty of things. We could all pick it to pieces. And unfortunately in the South Burnett, we've got a real culture of being able to tear things down, but not necessarily build people up. And I think as leaders, I'd really like to see us change that. my question and my challenge to you is, you say shop owners won't be there, and look, I absolutely applaud the work the team are doing. This construction, and I'd probably like to hear an update on that. They are working on programs and activities to try and encourage locals into those businesses during this disruptive period. Absolutely. And it's up to us, each and every one of us as locals and individuals, to walk that little bit further, to park that little bit further away while these works are underway and support our local businesses, because we absolutely want them to be there when this project is done. We want to see them thriving. That's why we've started this big, long discussion in the first place. So my challenge to you is, what happens if we don't do this project? And what are you proposing? What's the solution? Do we just pull up now? Stop work, everybody? Forget it?
Oak, I'm going to interject. Thank you. You've made your point. Okay. Righto. Chairman, business isn't always easy, but it's a good, robust debate. Councillor Duff, now, Councillor Shoemaker's raised some good points there. And I just want to clarify, Councillor Duff, to be fair, as the chair, didn't say that councillors were asleep at the wheel. She said that she was asleep at the wheel, so could I just clarify that? Councillor Duff, Councillor Shoemaker raised a good point about leadership. I don't think, as Councillor Shoemaker said at the end there, that you're looking to abandon the project, but what are you suggesting then moving forward as a solution?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm suggesting that we reconsider some of those large gardens and see if we can look at perhaps not including them, changing them back to car parks. And I'm also asking that we reconsider the Glennon Street project, where we're going to lose 28 car parks, and consider, as Mayor Otto had suggested, holding that money and putting it towards doing Kingaroy Street North. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Councillor. Look, as the Mayor, I was elected, councillors were elected by the divisions. As the Mayor, I was elected by the people right across the region to be their Mayor across 6 divisions. And that part of that is to chair these meetings. And it's been a good, robust debate. I've always encouraged that and independent thinking. So that's been good. For the community, please acknowledge, look, everyone acknowledge we have robust debates, but we'll all go and have a cup of tea and a piece of cake afterwards and get on well. But this is the part of the democratic process, and I think it's healthy, quite frankly. So that's a good, healthy debate. I just wanted to, perhaps, if I could have an opportunity to speak for a few minutes now and ask a few questions, having listened to everybody else. Project manager, Councillor Duff talked about, councillors have talked a lot about the fact that we're losing parking through regulatory requirements, and I can hear what you say about up there outside the Chinese where you're backing out with that crossing. I actually went across there yesterday and inspected that with Alan. I can see that that's the issue there, fully understand that. Are we actually losing, I mean, to clarify for the community, are we actually losing parking due to garden beds, or are we only losing parking, as has been stated here this morning, to regulatory requirements? Because I certainly would like to have that clarified. I know it's a question I've been asked in the community. And if we are losing it due to garden beds that isn't a regulatory requirement, are we able to bring a report back maybe as to how many of those car parks? Only for the reasons so that at least I can clarify that to the community. And I just want to acknowledge the work the staff have done again, but also acknowledge I only came into this in November. So I came into this in November last year. I've only been involved in it for 6 months due to a conflict of interest, having a business in town. I don't think anyone's been in to speak to my business, by the way, but anyway, it's probably a conflict of interest to mention that. But due to a conflict of interest, I didn't get involved until council gave me leave to do so in November, so I wasn't involved in those meetings back in June. I've got a series of questions I'd like clarified on this, but I might just go one at a time. First one, project manager. Yeah, garden beds. Has Councillor Duff got a point, or?
Yeah, just through you, Mr Mayor, if I may, we'll take the parking questions on notice if that's okay, and we're happy to bring back further information in relation to the garden beds and what losses are due to geometry inside the KTP footprint. I'm just mindful we want to give council the right information, so if that was okay, Mayor, we would bring that
definitely,
back.
General Manager.
Yeah,
yes.
so
respectfully, we need to get this right, so I think that's sensible to do so. Thanks, Aaron, that's fine. And just a couple of other things there. Okay, I've made a lot of notes. There's been a lot of comments made. I'll try and navigate through what I've got here. I need more paper. But in terms of, look, I'm I'm sitting on the fence with this one. I've been terribly challenged by it. I've heard comments here that councillors are disappointed at the negativity. I've heard members of our community called complainers. I've heard a statement that there's a culture of tearing things down in our region. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I absolutely agree that Kingaroy Town's tired. I was one of the people sitting on the sidelines as a community member who was clapping and cheering when we got the funding for this. I think it's tremendous. Goodness knows our town needs it. The footpaths are shocking, the curbs are shocking, the underground water thing, stuff that Tim's had to deal with, and the sewage pipes, and look, the road pavement's breaking up. There's no doubt about it. Kingaroy's long overdue for this and very much deserves it. That's my view. I think it's a tremendous project. But having said that, look, I must feel that, and I know there's 4 councillors here who've really robustly argued against you, Councillor Duff, but in listening, in all fairness, I do think I'm hearing similar things. I've got to say, I say that respectfully, and I apologise. I don't mean to be negative. I'm trying to be very objective here, but I actually met with some ladies in the library last week, and because I came in this late, I wasn't involved in that consultation process early, Council, back in June. So I met with ladies who come to the library every Friday. I met with men who come in there every Friday. I spoke with them. They are very concerned about their loss of car parks in Glendon Street, the 28 car parks. I know it's not all due to the shared zone. I think, Alan, you clarified yesterday only 4 parks are being lost due to the shared zone. The other 28 are due to the intersections at either end, north and south. But they are very concerned and worried about that. They're actually talking about not using the library anymore if they can't get a park out the front of the library. And these are elderly ladies who've been coming there for many, many years. There are also men that go in there and play bridge, and they were saying they're actually already planning to go somewhere else because they've heard they're not going to have their car parked. So I'm hoping we can work through some solutions around that. I actually then took the liberty of thought, I'll just go for a walk through the street. I had some time yesterday and I took a couple of hours to walk through the street. I thought I might just sample some of these business because I'm hearing different stories from different people, and there was mixed feedback on this. So I actually I just spoke to my own wife, and she said, well, we've got a business in the street. No one's ever been in to see her in our business. So I'm not sure why that was the case, but that's an example. I know we're not fronting Kingaroy Street, but we did have clients that come through that area. And then I thought, look, I'll just go and talk to other businesses. So I actually started at where the works is, down there, Alan, where I met you yesterday morning. I walked anti-clockwise around town. And so I canvassed, in the time I had, about 10 businesses. And I just wanted to share with council some of that feedback so that we are, I guess, getting those different perspectives. Now, what I did when I went to the business, I said, look, I'm the mayor. When I introduced myself, I'm just here to hear how you're feeling. How's the project going? You happy? Are the staff looking after you? Is it all going well? So I went in there with a fairly positive, upbeat message. And of the 7 out of 10, there were 3 who were really, really positive. It's great. We need this. Shared going's got to be awesome. We really love it. And that was really easy to deal with. But 7 out of the 10 raised real concerns. They're really nervous. So I went across and spoke to cafes, the music store, jewellers, gift store, major clothing outlet, retailers, and takeaway food as well. One of the major takeaway foods. I want to mention who they are because I think that's not appropriate, but they're the cross-sector of businesses, small businesses through the CBD that I canvassed yesterday. And it was just to get how you're feeling, is it going fine? And they opened up to me. And so some of the feedback that I got was from 7 of them, there was comments from at least 4 long-term businesses that have been here for decades that said that if it takes as long, these are their words, if it takes as long to do the front of our shop as what it took to do the front of the Chinese shop, we won't survive it. We will be gone and our shops will be empty. I'm trying not to use inflammatory language here, everybody. This is just what they said to me. They said that shops that are in the Alfred Street East section are currently already getting the impact of the roundabout, and they said that their trade is down by up to 50% in the last 2 months. And they said to me, once we close off Alfred Street East, they're really worried that they won't survive if it takes 3 months or 2 months, that commonly that sort of seemed to be that 3-month thing, that if there's a 3-month period where people can't get into our shop. And you mentioned Tomo's now, you brought that to, I went in there and they were actually, the people were almost in tears. I'm sorry, this is the truth. Out the back of the shop when I went there, the owner is absolutely distraught. His indication to me was that the loss of trade for the last 3 months, he's just about done. They were the words I got yesterday. I'm going to be honest about this. I went to the Chinese shop last night and they indicated to me for 3 months they pretty well lost a significant percentage of their customers, and a lot of their regulars that come in on a particular night every week aren't coming back. Now, I think as Councillor Shoemaker said, you're going to have that disruption. There's nothing we can do about it. There's got to be short-term pain for longer-term gain. However, I'm really keen to have that conversation about how we can try and mitigate the impact, because I think what's happened, people have seen what's happening in front of the Chinese, in front of where Better Electrical has been, and they've now actually become really nervous. So I had a prominent footwear retailer yesterday say to me, she's pretty well not sleeping. She's that nervous that she's going to have to move because of the fact that she's been watching that's happening in Alfred Street, and if that happens in front of her shop, her indication to me was that you just can't afford to go for 3 months with a 60 or 80% downturn in trade. So look, guys, I'm just saying these issues are there and we need to deal with them. I don't think anyone in this chamber wants to see one business lost through this process. I certainly don't want that on my watch as the mayor of the council. I did get a lot of feedback, and one particular fellow who's a well-respected, long-term businessman here, that's in a business that's been here for decades, up in Kingaroy Street, and he did say to me that he attended a meeting 2 years ago and that there was a vast majority of people at that meeting who stood up and said that they didn't want the shared zone. Now, I'm happy to give you his details, and he would like to talk to council about the views that he put forward to the former council around that. And I even had, I'm continuing to hear this. I don't think these people are complainers. I don't think they are people who are trying to tear anything down. I really think that they are people who are just personally concerned about their livelihoods. And I'm just wondering, with the pictures and plans that Councillor Shoemaker showed there that she's got, that were shared in that pack back in June, did they identify the loss of parking? Because when I spoke to people in those 10 shops, very few of them knew where the loss of parking was going to be. They still seem to be unsure. It might be that they just haven't read their packs thoroughly. I don't know if that's in the packs, Councillor Shoemaker, if it's identified. The loss of parking, is that on there? You can clearly see that? Yeah. So clearly we've got to do more work in this space, but what I'm saying is we have got 2/3 of our business community who are extremely nervous in the CBD of Kingaroy right now and are contemplating whether or not, I've actually had 2 businesses say they've already started to look at putting staff off because of the expected downturn. Now, I'm not making inflammatory statements here. This is simply sharing what I heard. We do have an issue, council, and we do need to deal with it, I believe, that there is concerns out there in the community, particularly with those small business people, and our elderly residents are concerned about access to the library. Look, I'm going to wrap up on that, but what I would like to say is, just with, I think, the shared zone, General Manager, well, you mentioned we're doing a workshop on the 28th of June. So I just want to know, what's the plan for consultation around that? We'll come to council for a workshop. Will the community get to hear what we're proposing there? Will they get to have the opportunity to re-engage on the shared zone? Because I'm hearing from a lot of people that they would like to. Aaron, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So just with the feedback, the project team have noted that, particularly around the programming elements. So I just wanted to talk council through that, if I may, just for a sec. One of the ones Al had put in the report there is obviously the time to complete Alfred Street. There's been our slowest start, I suppose. And the reason for that is we've had weather mitigation. Also, you'll see it was quite congested there. Now you're seeing the resources spread out. So one of the things that the team has spoken to is to make sure that we are talking to businesses about the forward program, and so that they can actually communicate with them what the timelines looks like. So if you own a business in Alfred Street and we're going to come and rip up your footpath and road, what we'll be able to do is give them more detail so they can have a real good feel for what the impact will be on those businesses. Alfred Street is always going to be, the section that we've just done there is always going to be our slowest. Obviously, it's congested, and also working through those construction methodologies too. There's a lot of conduits in there that we haven't put in before through the team. And now obviously with our water main spreading out. So I'll take the feedback, Mr. Mayor, that we'll look to probably go door to door with those businesses and talk to them about some of those issues. I think that's a good step for us to make sure that, you know, if we are missing the mark, I think it's important that we go and have a chat and work through that issue. So I'll prioritise the team for that to go and have that discussion. Just with the shared zone, we're currently, so council will have a workshop on the 28th, which will be the design of the shared zone. What we thought we'd do is we'll work through in the next couple of weeks what the consultation program looks like post that. Our intention was very much to go public with that. Obviously, similar to what we did with the design, we would be looking to release the design online so people can provide feedback, and also have our shopping centre display as well. Obviously, Kingaroy, majority of people go through the shopping centre at some point. So we'll be looking to do that one-on-one consultation with the community in there as well. And obviously anything, we're probably looking at a probably 3 to 4 week program of putting together where it's both online. People can obviously come and see us in our office as well, and also have a public display. There's probably opportunity for us also to, if there is concerns at the libraries, probably have a session at the library during the week where we can get feedback from some of the users of that as well. So note the point there too. It's all feedback for us to look at how we can engage with people. So we'll put together a program which will probably bring the council on the 28th for feedback, and then at this stage we'll look to see how we take that forward into July and August. We were intending yesterday to make sure that we give adequate time. I'm mindful too that we don't rush. We don't put out a set of plans and we turn around the following week and say, you know, if there's further work there to do. So we'll probably have a 6 to 8 week program where we've got feedback, and then also mindful if there's modifications we need to make to the green zones or whatever it might be. So we're quite open to community consultation in that space. So.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Really hear that you are open to community consultation. I think anyone listening and watching today will be very buoyed to hear that. And Alan, can I just say, you know, everyone said, oh, the team are lovely. You know, the project management team, they've got the office there, they're lovely, they're coming in, talking to us. But I just don't know whether people aren't game to ask the questions or not, but maybe we're trying to work on that a little bit with them. One of probably the biggest things I heard was that people were, of all the 10 businesses I spoke to, not one of them knew when it was starting in front of their shop. So I said to them, do you know when we're going to start work in front of your shop? And they said no. And I said to them, do you know how long we're going to be there for under the plans? And they said no. So that hasn't been they don't clearly understand that. So just when you talk about the project timeframes, I know there is a lot of uncertainty. I think uncertainty gives rise to worry. Uncertainty makes people nervous and they feel there's a real risk there. But yeah, look, honestly, guys, I did have people close to tears yesterday. They are very stressed and worried and losing sleep over it. So anything you can do to help put them at ease would be appreciated. Aaron, if we can revisit some of those green zones and look at if they are taking away car parks, I would certainly think that's a worthwhile exercise. And also, I'm keen to also understand, Aaron, what will be the process by which council will make a decision in relation to the consultation around the shared zone? So we'll have the workshop on the 28th. Will that be then a decision that will be made in an open council meeting as to what the scope of the consultation will be? And will that be done in line with council's community engagement policy? Because in our community engagement policy, Mr. CEO, the third tier is Involve, and Involve talks about workshops and informal polling. And I just wonder if that's going to be maybe considered, or what tier we will engage on that.
Mayor, are you talking something extra to because the resolution at the last general said that design come back, consult, so then that would come back again to council, so. So
the resolution said
different?
that the design would come back and that there would be further consultation around that. I was just wanting to get an understanding of, I think we spoke yesterday about what's going to be the scope of that consultation. how will it happen? Well, is council going to have an opportunity to have input into how that consultation happens in accordance with our policy? So it's more about how it happens. What's the mechanism by which we're going to consult the community? Because I can't help but feel that we're in this place today maybe because there was misunderstanding about how the consultation would happen, and maybe we've learned a lot about how we've consulted in the future and how we can do it better in the past, so we can do it better in the future. Because I am hearing that people would like us to go to the library. Residents would like us to get something in the paper, for example, because they don't all have the internet. Maybe they'd like us to run some workshops for specific groups. Maybe we should do some internal polling, as is in our policy. I don't know. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of how we intend to do that.
So what you're asking is to circulate an engagement plan, so just so I'm hearing. So the overall project has been adopted, so there would be a degree of information as well as engagement. So it would be third tier, totally take your point, third tier of the policy, but there would also be a percentage of this engagement will be information sharing as well as engaging on final design, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes, so if we get up an engagement plan and circulate it to councillors, and certainly the design's coming back to open council as far as I understand it and would see, and then there'll be open discussion on it, so if that answers your question well.
Yeah, I think so. Is that design going to come back to open council and the engagement plan could come back and be considered by council?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think the way we'll handle it, and I'll just confirm with the project team, we'll do the workshop on the 28th. So council's adopted its civil design for the project. The consultation we'll be putting forward will be around the design of the shared zone, the final surfacing, finishing, landscaping, whatnot. Part of our consultation with council is to workshop the design to get feedback directly from the council, just what do you like, what do you don't like, and part of that we'll also present a community consultation program that we want to put forward to exactly what I said before. We're going to put online, we're going to do the shopping centre, and then council can give us their feedback. We will then send that to the general for council's endorsement to release, I think is the best way.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Yeah.
So could we expect that to come, what would you be plan, bring that to the July general meeting at this stage?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. So we'll do the workshop on the 28th. I'll just check the standing committee items. Well, given that the standing committee is the following week after the workshop, we'll probably send it directly to the general, I think is the best way. I'll obviously talk with the CEO around what is the preferred course of action in that case. But to answer your question, it will go to council for resolution, I think is the best way to take it forward. So,
Question,
Yep,
Aaron.
yep, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, okay, well, we've spent a fair bit of time on this, so I look forward to that coming through. The only one question I would like to finally put is that there's been some uncertainty, I think, as to whether under the agreement that we've signed with the the Federal Department of Infrastructure, as to where the removal of any possible consideration of any removal of the shared zone would actually give rise to a breach of our agreement, whether the department would be prepared to consider that. Aaron, is it possible that we could get clarification in writing on that from the department so that then council has got that at hand when we consider it at that July general meeting?
Yeah, if it's okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll take that one on notice and I'll come back to you. And
Yeah, I'd be really grateful if we could get some correspondence off the department and get something back in writing, so then we know where we stand. Because it's obviously academic to be debating that if it's going to be something that the department say, it's just off the book, it's off the table, it's in there, and you've got to stick with it. But I'd just like to know for sure what's the department's position on that. So, for example, if we get a lot of community feedback that says that we overwhelmingly don't want it, it may not be. They may overwhelmingly want it, but if they don't, there's no point us going out and polling the community if the department aren't going to allow us to change that. So we'd just like that clarified if I could. Thanks, Aaron, for the benefit of council. Okay, look, let's wrap this up and move on. It's pretty well overdue for morning tea. So we've got a recommendation that council notes the attached Kingaroy Transformation Project update report for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Henson. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, well, it's now 10:42. I suggest that we close the committee meeting until 11 o'clock for morning tea. I'll move that. Adjourn, sorry, I always get that wrong. Thanks, Mr. CEO. That we adjourn the meeting until 11 a.m. Thanks, councillor Henson. We have a seconder. Someone? Councillor Potter, thank you. Those in favour? Procedural motion carried. See everyone back here at 11 o'clock. Thank you. In the meeting, do we have a seconder? Thanks, councillor Henson. Those in favour? Carried. Oh, yep, carried. Righto, I was a bit rusty for the morning session, so I'll try and be a little bit on the ball this time. So we're up to the where are we? Wondai Industrial Estate Design Report, at page 41. That's item 6.4. James, are you going to lead this one for us? Talk us through this. And Aaron? Thanks, gents.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, I'll just hand to James in a sec to talk to the technicalities. So last week at the General Council resolved to obviously proceed with the LRCI project for this Wondai Industrial Estate. Obviously, council's well aware we've had discussions around B-double access in and out of the estate and what that looks like. We believe we found a solution which puts a one-way configuration or partially one-way configuration through the estate, which will allow B-doubles to be blanketly permitted through the estate, unless James jabs me in the ribs and says that's wrong. Just that there has been some consultation, probably just for where we're going to go with this. There has been consultation over the last couple of days with some of the transport operators around some options for the estate. What we do with this report, Mr. Mayor, if we may, is we would be looking to probably just get council to note the report. We would bring back a report to the General later this month. There was a feedback to look at making Kemp Street possibly two-way, just to make council aware. We think that'll be a considerable cost to do that. So what we'd like to do is just give council an indication of cost against this option and to make Kemp Street. We would have that information ready for the General at that time. So at which point we would probably be seeking council to make a decision on either the configuration with the feedback that we have, or consider going to two-way on Kemp Street, and obviously the financial implication of that. And that allows us to get that feedback. Just probably for council's interest, and I'll get James to probably just touch on it. The one driveway access that we are looking to upgrade as part of this configuration is the inspection point. Currently, at the end of Kemp Street and Burrows Street there, the B-doubles currently go in there for all of the region, and they can go straight ahead. So I just want to make council aware we are not intending to upgrade anyone's accesses as part of this project. If there's B-double access required, then that's a matter for the business owners. But however, in the nature of that vehicle can currently go straight ahead in the industry interest of that access, I think it would be wise for council to consider widening that, because if we don't, then those heavy vehicles will not be able to be inspected in the South Burnett region. I think that's an industry need. So I just want to be quite transparent with council. That's where I see the project at. I might just get James to just touch on just some of the turning stuff, and then obviously what we would look to do, Mr. Mayor, is bring back a report to the General and say, here's our preferred option. Here's what the consideration would be if you went two-way on Kemp Street, if that was okay.
Yeah, thanks, General Manager. And that sounds like a really good process. I know that Councillor Duff spent a lot of time in her division down there working with those stakeholders. I've been there and met with them myself in recent days, and Kemp Street was an issue. So that'll be really good to bring that forward, get some costings around that, what the design costings are. And thanks, James, for the work that you and Cody have been doing too. I know it's much appreciated by all the businesses down there. So, yeah, over to you, James. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before us is a bit of a planned layout of the estate. Just to help with direction, the road to Mergen is to the left, to head back to the Wondai CBD is to the right. So what we have is the Bunya High at the bottom of the screen. What we've looked to try and do is to try and get some efficiency on the movements through the estate, because what we have is some legacy infrastructure items over time where the industry has evolved, where larger vehicles are on the roads and wanting to get into a number of properties around industrial estates right across Australia essentially. But what we have in Wondai is fairly unique in the space that we do have some fairly narrow roads in the vicinity of around 6 to 7.5 metres. That is fairly undersized for that profile and need of traffic for such an estate. So hence we've had to look at investigating alternatives on how do we actually move those vehicles of that size. And when we talk about B-doubles, we're talking about truck and trailers that are 25, 26 metres long, like they are very significant in length. As of right movements, and what I mean by as of right is like semi-trailers that you see on the road, 19 metres or less is what is deemed to be as of right. So what we're trying to do is to assist the industry in moving throughout the estate, but also listening to the needs of those who don't operate B doubles in the estate and trying to cater for their interests at the same time, because we have a dynamic of businesses through there that all rely on the function of the road through there, but have different needs on what it does for them. So what we have proposed at this point in time is some works around the first intersection there, which is the Old Dip and Bunya Avenue intersection, just coming off the highway. That needs some significant widening in order to achieve the movements through there. We are proposing Bunya Avenue to be two-way at this point in time. Good success with the businesses that front onto Bunya Avenue around trying to keep that two-way. Currently it is two-way as well as throughout the whole estate is. But where we're at right now is that with trying to move the B doubles, we are not proposing to actually try and push the B doubles up Bunya Avenue, because that's not currently how Bunya Avenue is used. We want to support how the movements occur currently, but we need to know where their destinations are. So in our original drafting of this, we actually looked at North Street operating from left to right through engagement with the businesses out there, in particular Parkside, understanding their entry locations and some of their building layouts and the posts and columns that they have for their structures on site, acknowledging that we needed to modify that. We needed to actually turn it around such that it did go from right to left or from south to north. What that did was also need to open up Old Dip Road to be two-way for a longer piece of road. Not a huge length, but it just means it's an additional consideration that we need to extend that two-way movement further into the estate. We're generally trying to support clockwise operations here as well, just as a piece of advice. So with Parkside, that's located predominantly between North Street and Bunya Avenue, where the two arrows are in the middle of the screen, just above the Bunya Highway label, that's roughly their exit location that they come out onto Bunya Avenue, and then from there they look to circulate up onto Burrows Street and head north. Currently they go back down North Street. We are looking to push that movement further into the estate, up into Cranich Street, because with the reliance of entry movements for Parkside to come in on North Street, we can't have them exit out onto the same road that they enter on. So we need to push that exit movement further east, I should say. And what you see halfway up the diagram is a street called Cranich Street, looking to channel those movements onto Cranich Street. And then with Kemp Street, Aaron just highlighted earlier around Kemp Street, we do have a desire to try and circulate that back around in a clockwise motion, where Kemp Street exits back onto Old Dip Road at the southern end of the estate. We would look to put in supporting line marking and regulatory signage for these operations to occur. That is the simplistic abilities of what line marking and signs are, but it's very, very strong in the enforcement space to assist QPS and associated inspectors, I should say, on that. In addition to this, we've also got a number of other businesses up along Burrows Street that we do have B-double operators that do, in a very blanket term, a milk run, where they drop off at a number of businesses along that northern side. So they would look to facilitate deliveries at a number of properties on Burrows Street between Cranich and Kemp. So right up in that left side of the diagram at the northern end of the estate. Where Aaron was highlighting before around the inspection station, that's right up in the top of the page there. And what we're, at this point in time, we've been looking at how do we actually still assist a lot of the operations up in that particular area of the estate. We do have some restrictions around that particular inspection station, and noting the fact that there is a whole of industry benefit if we were to look at that a little bit closer and consider incorporating that into the project, because it does provide a service to Wandai and the South Burnett. So we do have B-doubles that are required to travel to Wandai to undertake these inspections beyond Wandai itself. But we also need to assist them in being able to exit the estate. So we've proposed Kemp Street. Could you just scroll up slightly, please, Lynelle? At the top of the estate, we have what's called a cul-de-sac, and essentially it is an area there where we're pretty much governed by property boundaries, private property boundaries, that is, where we need those movements to be two-way. The occupancy of lots there is very low, the volume of traffic is very low, but there are B-double operators that are sited on those lots on the northern side of Burrows. And essentially, we still need to support them in being able to accommodate their movements. So that is the one area in the whole estate where we are just, that is the circumstance that's before us, where we need to assist them in having the B-doubles operating two-way on the existing profile of road, but the volumes are very, very low. So essentially, the stage delivery of this project as well is, if you could just scroll down for me, please, Lynelle. The green areas that are highlighted on that diagram are around some of the intersection improvements and the strengthening of the pavement out there. And then we also have some strengthening and overlay works along the areas of higher movement and higher traffic, and also higher turning operations as well, because of the frequency of businesses that operate and function out of the streets that front on Bunya Avenue and North Street is just a lot higher. So it is of greater operation and risk, and the numbers are there to support us. So essentially we've scoped up a project to try and deliver on the outcomes of what the estate needs, and looking at potentially alternative options around what Kemp Street needs as well, given that Parkside occupies a fair portion of land that fronts onto Kemp Street, and with the future intentions of Parkside, with what they want to do out there, around what do they need, because what we are limited with what we can do. It would be smart of us to engage with them as to what their future intention is at the same time. Kemp Street has its limitations in being able to go two-way. Predominantly, it's that corner movement in the right side of Kemp Street where the curve comes around. That is really an issue where we need to do some significant works. We will need to go away and cost that up to provide that information to council for further consideration.
James, thank you very much. I'm just listening to you. You've got a very good, clear understanding. You've obviously been listening very carefully to what the businesses down there are telling you, particularly around the flow, the current flow, and trying to replicate that in a way which is going to be compliant, and the need to look at Kemp Street as a two-way, because we do have users on the north side that will actually also come in and then look to go out on Kemp Street. So that's excellent. Thanks very much for everything you do there, because it's a really important issue as to all of us, I'm sure, that we get this right. Councillor Duff, I know you've put a lot of hours in down there talking with everybody. What your feedback at this stage?
Thank you. I just want to thank Manager Darcy for listening to the people yesterday, because there's quite a few there and they're concerned about their businesses, and you've absolutely spot on with what you were saying about the Kemp Street situation. And even if we had to do that in stage 2, because it needs to happen, because what they're saying and is that they can eliminate a lot of that. There'll be a heavy lot of traffic going the other way, but because their businesses are straight down there, it would save a lot of use of that unnecessary use of the road if we made it all one way. So eventually, if we could get that Kemp Street opened up so that those trucks that use those have that bottom businesses like the concrete plant and the trucking business, that they could just go straight down, it would save a lot of going extra kilometres and with extra trucks and movement on that other side. And the other one that I'm really pleased that you've noted is that turn into the inspection station, because I looked at that yesterday after Manager Darcy had to leave, and they took me down there, and they were concerned that they were going to lose, people wouldn't come to the inspection station because we're going to force them to take that sharp turn, and that intersection is really ordinary. And so if we upgrade that, that would alleviate that concern for those trucks that have all now would have to turn into that left-hand inspection station. So I really thank you for listening to the community and providing, some hopefully good outcomes for the Wandai Industrial Estate. Thank you.
Yeah, councillor, thanks. James, you know, just here where you're pointing out those arrows down there where they come out of the load out section from Parkside on Bunya Highway, you got those two arrows that you referenced just above the Bunya Highway where it says Bunya Highway. So they load up there, they then come out. And so what will be actually happening is a lot of those trucks will be encouraging them to turn right, then go down Burrows and head up and go out through Kemp back down to Old Dip. Is it possible that, or are you looking at widening the road where they come out of the load out and turn right? Because I think they're coming out into the drain at the moment, Aaron. Did they show you that? Have they mentioned that to you and showed you what's happening there?
I've been working with my team. In all honesty, I didn't have the opportunity, unfortunately, to meet with Parkside, but some members of my team have been out there and met with them face to face. It was really good consultation, really constructive, and it helped us understand what they need and what they do and the frequency of what they do as well. You're absolutely right with understanding the movements through there. Looking at where those arrows do come out, there would need to be some minor widening on the opposite side of the road to assist with that steering movement. But beyond that, we believe that they can then push up to Cranage Street instead of North Street, and then they've got the abilities to have functional B-double operations through the estate where it will address the majority of their need. We do appreciate that this impacts on everyone, and we did make that known yesterday to those that attended. But we believe that we're all going to have to work together on trying to get an outcome here at the same time that's, it's the best of a bad situation, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks, James. I think everyone down there is saying we're doing a good job, so much appreciated. A lot of good feedback, I think, Councillor Duff, aren't we, on the work that's being done? Yeah. James, just the other one was probably a second project, General Manager, was further up at the fuel depot. If we keep heading towards Mergen, another kilometre or so up on the right-hand side, is there possibility to perhaps look at, I'm not sure if they've mentioned this to you, making that a one-way clockwise as you come into the fuel depot and go around the back and come out? I know there's issues there at the moment. If that hasn't been brought to your attention, it might be something that we can look at to bring to you as a future project, perhaps, Aaron? Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mr Mayor, and the fact that we did have some good constructive dialogue around the operations. It's to do with the East Street entrance, off just a little bit further north on the highway as you head to Mergen. You can't actually see it on the plan before you, but it is, we're talking apples and oranges on the complexity. That estate is far simpler, thank goodness. And the fact is that weighbridge is very well sited and configured for the way the operations support that area. So there is, a bit like what we were talking about with the inspection station, that weighbridge and fuel cell further north, that has whole of industry benefits for Wandai and the greater area as well. So we understand that there is huge interest in trying to get similar outcomes to what this industrial estate at that location as well. So we are working with Tom Champney, had good constructive communication with him on Friday as well as yesterday morning, wanting to work with them in trying to help both them and us in understanding what our risk is in the background associated with trying to get those larger vehicles under, as of what I did say earlier, was around as of right movements, where we try to get away from the administration of permits under the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, and wanting to try and help them, streamline their business movements such that there's less input from council based on such a small network of road, and the amount of infrastructure there is quite small, comparatively speaking. And I've offered to meet them again, and also seeking some correspondence from them to help commence that discussion as well, such that we can provide them with a response.
That's really excellent. Thanks, James. Appreciate you doing that work at that particular location as well. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Shoemaker?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor, and certainly I agree. There's been some excellent work that's been done, and it's great to hear, Council, we always talk about serving our community and working with our community, and I think this is just testament the role of council and the work that our staff do. So thank you for that. A couple of things I wanted to note. I really appreciate the extra work that's been done in understanding the background of the Wondai Industrial Estate. It was really interesting to read that it was subdivided in 1984, and I know I talked to GM O'May about this, being that he was the CEO around Wondai Shire Council at that time. And, you know, it wasn't until 1990 that B-doubles were actually allowed on highways. So that just incredible learnings there. So thank you for that extra information. I also just wanted to note, and I just wanted to confirm based on the conversation that we've had, just to make sure I understand this. So it says in the report, the works require a budget estimate of $970,474 and will provide a gazetted estate for B-double access and will not require any access permits, which is great. I think that's the outcome we've all been working toward. It's recommended that council commit $900,000 of LRCI funding, which I believe we've already done, and then an additional $70,000 from the program savings in the fourth quarter review. I just wanted to confirm with that, so does that 70,000, so that full budget of 970,000, does that include Kemp Street, or are we saying that's at stage 2 of this project? I just want to...
Yeah, sorry, James. I think it was pretty, you did say, isn't it, Kemp Street will be a different scope, a whole different project. Stage 2, sorry, councillor, I just, yeah,
No,
well, that was the case.
to confirm that, yeah.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor. So what we thought we'd do is, when we wrote this report, that was prior to us going through Kemp Street. So my suggestion to council is we will probably, we will bring back a revised report for this one for the general, which has the staging for this, which is 970,000. All we wanted to do to add to the general report is give council a value to consider Kemp Street if you wanted to proceed. So at the time we hadn't included Kemp Street. So our price for this work, the solution that we're offering is the 970, which would be the fourth. So Kev will bring savings through his program and nominate in the fourth quarter. What we thought between now and the general, we were able to put an estimate against Kemp Street. Not a high, it won't be detailed design because it's a lot of work, but is it worth 500,000? Is it worth $1 million? So council can make an informed decision at the general.
Excellent. I did want to acknowledge it was great to have the full cost estimate with the report. Thank you. So you could go through each intersection and see those costs. Really do appreciate that level of detail. So yeah, look forward to the Kemp Street report, and then of course council deciding how we go forward from there. I think it's great that we're working together to find an outcome that it allows all the current industrial activities to be undertaken and completed. My question was just around the time work for these works and how we'll work with businesses in the industrial estate to ensure their operations can continue. Because I'm very mindful, like with Parkside, we're talking about a significant number of trucks in and out that still have to move around that estate. So I understand we're still in that planning and consultation phase, but I can see it's a great opportunity to actually start having some of those conversations as well. So if there's any update you can provide about that, that would be great.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. What we'll do is once council resolves the project, we'll move into the construction consultation. The big thing for this one is a lot of the work is going to be asphaltic work, so we'll look at doing a staged approach to that. So that allows us to work possibly on weekends, which is the product that we've nominated here is actually the similar product to the pavement we're putting into KTP. So we're looking to get economy inside that because it's a high strength asphalt. So we'll work with our suppliers to see what options are available to us. Very mindful too, we don't want to disrupt the estate and make sure that we make that work. So we look forward to working with the businesses to try and get it resolved. The one thing I'll say to council is the problem with the asphalt too, because it gets cold, night time is not a good time during winter for us, which is unfortunate. So we would be looking to seek a daytime solution on weekends or through that process. Just given that's an LRCI project, we would be looking to accelerate as soon as we can. Obviously, there's a bit of procurement for us to do and look to make a start there as soon as possible. So that could be a month or two, depending on what we do. We do have some remedial works to do in the intersections too. There's there's quite a bit of fatigue there, so there's nothing to stop us coming in and doing some remedial works there. So we'll take a staged approach with the businesses, and I think too that the work that James has done, and along with the councillors' support, once we reach a solution, we'll probably be on good dialogue with the community there. I think to work together. So I think that's a good option. So.
Yeah, and just my final question, thank you, that's excellent to hear. My final question is just in relation to when we bring that final report to the general, is it possible to understand, I understand I'm putting you on the spot, just the whole of life, expectation for this now, once we upgrade it to this standard, how long we can expect that, pavement and road to stay at that condition. And then also, I'd also like to understand, just in terms of, so it's age, and also if there would be, what are the implications, and it's probably just more broadly, not specifically for this project, just want to be clear, just want to understand when we do an upgrade or project like this, like we're taking something and certainly improving it, by a over $1 million spend, does that impact, what will the value of that road network be, and how does that impact our depreciation going forward? I probably just want to understand that process a little bit more. When we go through into projects like these, how does that, in this instance, I can't see that we've got any other choice, don't get me wrong, but, when we're going through and upgrading roads to this kind of standard, how does that impact from an asset management point of view going forward?
Thanks, Councillor Schumacher. Can I just intervene? I'm just conscious of
Mr.
time, gentlemen. Look, I think that'll all be addressed in the report, will it not? Take that on board from the council. I'll bring that forward in the report. Aaron, look to get some sort of a resolution around this in June general.
Yes, through Mr. Mayor, we can add that to the report for you. To be honest, it's quite a simple one for us to answer. So yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you can bring that forward in the report, we can all consider it then. Thanks very much, gentlemen. Okay, look, I just, would it be appropriate then, we're thinking that just in terms of the officer's recommendation, at this stage, we really just need to note the draft design and the cost estimates provided in this report. We are going to have another report come back, which is more comprehensive, clearly. So I would then therefore move that that the committee recommends to council that council note the draft design and cost estimates provided in this report. Do we have a seconder for such? Thanks, Councillor Duff. Oh, yes, sorry, Mark. Yes, you're right. Sorry, Mr. CEO. Yes, so it's just information. So it's just simply, thanks, Lynelle. Yep, that's it. Great. We just note at this stage. Okay, those in favour? All good? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, where are we up to? So we're up to now 6.5, which is the Sawpit Creek. Used to spend a lot of time down in the Sawpit Creek as a kid, chasing guppies. But anyway, the Sawpit Creek pedestrian bridge. Unsuccessful ATSI and TIDS application at 47. Aaron, you happy to lead us through this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, it's just for council's noting. We lodged an application in conjunction with the Cherbourg Regional Council to seek a footbridge through the Sawpit Creek as part of the footpath project through there. Unfortunately, just for council's advice, we were unsuccessful with our application, which, to be honest, it's a little bit disappointing for us, and it was disappointing for the Cherbourg people. Just probably for council's noting that I think just that we're unsuccessful. However, I think there's an opportunity for us to work with that community to seek other sources of funding going forward. And if council is happy, we would continue to seek possible options to provide that solution. So I just wanted to, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just acknowledge the work that James and his team put in partnership with the Cherbourg team to get that application together. I think they did a very good job, and it was great to work with Zala and his team cooperatively to get that up. So,
yeah, thanks very much, General Manager. And of course, just a bit of background here. I certainly know that The federal member and the local member, Lou and Deb, both took up the cause here and wrote to the Minister for Main Roads in relation to possibly getting this converted to a state-controlled road, but unfortunately, that road doesn't meet the criteria for such at this stage. So any work that you can do moving forward would be much appreciated. Councillor Duff, I know you were down there recently. Can we just get a quick comment for you, then we'll come back to Councillor Shoemaker in terms of update from where those conversations are at? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I was at the meeting yesterday, the footpath meeting, and James was online. I'm on that committee for the Mergen to Cherbourg footpath. They're actually doing it in stages now because the original funding of 3 million isn't enough to complete the whole project. So while we're disappointed that we didn't get the funding for the bridge, there is still time because they're still doing stage 1, and then there'll be stage 2 and stage 3. So the bridge is part of stage 3. So so we're just working with them, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get that bridge over the line in some way, shape or form through some funding. But hard to understand, and I guess we'll go back to the funding source and find out what we missed out or what we didn't do to achieve that tick for the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Duff. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of questions. Certainly appreciate the work that's been done and the collaboration with Cherbourg Aboriginal Council. I noted on the paperwork provided that the bridge is a priority 1 LGA rating, and I just wanted to understand, certainly I can see in the letter that it's noted that there's been, a number of quality applications, but I just wanted to understand, in terms of funding, are there other funding options? And if not, when can we actually apply for the next round of TIDS funding? Like, what's the sort of time frame for that?
Through Mr Mayor, our option is the ATSI TIDS, and again, happy to be corrected by my learned colleague, is a specialist TIDS bucket which is reserved for Aboriginal access to Aboriginal communities. So what we'll do post this letter is we'll contact the department to on the back of what Councillor Duff is saying, is to seek feedback. I think in the past that's been valuable for us, that we understand where we can strengthen our applications, and a lot of times I think opportunities can be missed if you don't go back and ask for how you might apply the project going forward. With that, so as far as when the next TIDS round is released, we're not sure. That hasn't been detailed to us. We'll make inquiries around that at the same time with them to see what those options are. The other option for us too, I think, is that there's probably an opportunity for James and the councillor to work with that community to see what other funding is available to particularly to access into, whether it's TIDS or there's other specialist rounds that may support Aboriginal communities. I think by having Councillor Duff and James on that group, we can work collaboratively, because to be honest, Zala and his team will probably know more than we will around some options that are available for that community. So we'll try and work collaboratively to identify possible funding sources. I'm not aware of any other federally funded ones at this time. However, again, through Zala and his team, I think if we can go through and identify options, we'll do so.
Yeah, that's excellent to hear. It's certainly a key priority. And my final question was just, are there any, and I know it's probably a dumb question, but I'm marvelling at the art of dumb questions. Are there any cost-effective ways, or is there anything else we could do to improve pedestrian access through that area at this point in time?
Through Mr Mayor, the only option would be to put a concrete footpath through the invert, in my opinion. The discussion we had with Zala is it carries quite a bit of water through there when I shouldn't say Zala, I should probably say Sam Murray was probably our best source of information for that one. It does run for a period of time. So one of the key feedbacks that they got is that there's probably 2 parts to the bridge. They don't want people walking on the road in general, because it's on a bend. It's a dangerous place to be. And the other part of that is that when times that there is water in the creek, they wanted an elevated solution through there, because then people walk on the road when it's wet, and that could be for a period of time. People do walk on the road through there at the moment. I think if there is no successful funding as part of the next stages of that project, I think there is options to do a low-level solution through there, and if that's the best solution we can come up with, it would be just what's acceptable to the community if they're happy to absorb that until such time as a bridge could be funded in the future. So I personally, yes, I think there is options. It would just mean that that solution would lose service at different points in time, but I think it can be done.
Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager and Manager. Yeah, I've certainly had conversations with Mayor Sando at Cherbourg, and her and I are both committed to continuing to progress conversations with the Regional Director and the Director General in relation to this matter, and support the work that you're doing in terms of accessing future funding for the full reconstruction of the road and the bridge included in that. So we'll keep working together, two councils collaboratively. Okay, so we've got that there that's noted for information. Do we have a mover for such? Thank you. Second, I thank you, Councillor Duff, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Duff and Councillor Shoemaker, thanks, Donnell. As presented. Okay, speakers for or against, otherwise we'll go to the vote. Councillor Shoemaker, got your light on. Okay, those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you again to our roads management. Okay, on to 6.6, road maintenance and slashing overview at 59. I know Councillor Duff's sitting there with bated breath, keen to see this report. General Manager. So we'll all go to page 59.
Yeah, true.
Thanks for the work, Darren. Yeah, over to you, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just one. Slashing and service levels is obviously something we've been talking about for some period of time, particularly in relation to road maintenance. What we thought we'd do today, if we could, Mr. Mayor, is just allow Kevin to walk through just an overview of the slashing service. Understand we've got our budget discussion this afternoon. We've given council some options to do additional rounds of slashing for your considerations in your budget. So we thought we'd just get Kevin in to just give an overview on that, and then after that I might just talk about some of the changes we're just making in that road maintenance area, and just talk a little bit about that project. So with that, I'll hand to Kevin if that's okay.
Thanks, Aaron. I'll try not to take up too much time. Just that first slide there. So we've done a report and tried to compile some fairly relevant information, I think, on our slashing and our strategy that we currently use. So that first slide is just highlighting all of the different aspects that we go into with our maintenance management, and it's a key part of this maintenance management project that we've been working on this year and hopefully into next financial year. So what that's depicting is all of the things that we consider prior to actually going and doing the work on the ground. So just with the slashing, so our service delivery strategy, we currently use in-house crews. We've got 4 tractors and slashers, and we also utilise external contractors as well, and generally balanced against the budget allocations, grass height, and how we're tracking with the overall intervention levels with our network. So both the internal and external resources that we use, we manage them with our in-house supervision, and we do have John, who's kindly come along, and if there's any specific questions that he may be able to assist councillors with. So just some general information on that slide there, councillors, but just moving on. So utilisation of plant, so we've looked at how we're tracking with our utilisation. So we've used the Institute of Professional Engineer fleet benchmark, and for roadside slashing, they've indicated 500 hours. We're tracking about 700 hours per annum. Current intervention level there is 700 mil of height, and the width that we'll generally slash is 3.6 metres where achievable. And that generally gives us a service level of service standard of about 2 rounds per annum. So this is an interesting slide. We've had a go at looking at where we are tracking overall on our network, and we had previous request to provide some information. We do provide a lot of information in the standing committee reports on where we're slashing and where we've completed, but this is our go at showing council where are we tracking as an overall. So the pie graphs are probably the best there. We believe we're around about 12% on the local network, about 8% on the TMR network. So that's the amount of work that we have to do. So where we've exceeded or almost at intervention level. So at the moment we've programmed in around about 480 kilometres of slashing to do, and we believe that'll take in the order of 6 weeks, and that will complete the intervention backlog that we currently have. Being mindful, of course, predictions for rain tomorrow and things do change. Current expenditure there, the final dot point, sitting at around about $370,000 to $380,000, and we're up to about 2.5 rounds this year. We've had a look at the council versus contractor costs, so the rate as well as the production. Generally, it's our view that they're about the same, so the rate's around about $100 per hour. And in terms of the production, fairly similar, 1.8 to 1.7 kilometres per hour. Bearing in mind we do utilise both internal and external slashes. And there's just a note there with the production. We do find that there are different productivities depending on where slashing's occurring. So, for example, Diagala Highway between Anango and Kingaroy, you'll often see the slasher driving along and then stopping, driving along, stopping, driving along, and that's very evident with the high trafficked roads, and that plays havoc with the production. So it, in terms of looking at the production rates, it's important to consider where we send slashes. Also in the smaller subdivisions, we find that the productivity is not as good as having a slasher out in the middle of a low trafficked road, which is typically out towards the western areas for us. The final slide there, councillors, just some commentary around what we do during the cooler months and the low growth periods. The team redeploy onto additional maintenance tasks, including our boom mowing, as well as traffic control for our maintenance crews. Selected herbicide spraying where appropriate, and our staff leave and coverage of sick leave absences. We did talk on Monday afternoon with our workshop that we're potentially looking at undertaking that high priority road intersection maintenance as well, if we can make that work. The final dot point there, councillors, is if we want to increase the service level and look at another round, then our budget estimate is around about $165,000.
Yeah, thanks, Kev. And John, welcome. Mate, this is where all the big decisions get made, apparently. So you're in the big room here, mate. So just in terms of that, Kev, that 1.7 kilometres on average, important to note that while we have a roughly 1,600 kilometre sealed network locally that we've got to maintain, you've got to be both sides of the road, so it's actually 3,200 kilometres that we've got to slash at 1.7 kilometres per hour. So it's a lot of person hours go into getting across that big network. So yeah, that's really good. Probably keen to see during the winter period if we can try and do some of that high priority road intersection maintenance, Aaron, around, just whippersnipping and clean upping around the road signage and the guideposts. Those new guideposts that they use, they're shocking things. They bend over. Once they're bent, they just can't re-straighten. Are we able to replace those ourselves, or we'd have to get DTMR to do that?
No, Mr. Mayor, we can look at options through that. There's probably a number of guideposts that are on the market. There are ones that will take a hit, and it might be a case again, and appreciate the work that Kevin and John and the team have done is back on our discussion on Monday. If we can try to tidy up those intersections during the winter period, I think that's an advantage for council. And it might be, taking your point, it's probably a good one actually. We can look at probably putting a different guidepost in on those intersections, and that might be something
Yeah, thanks,
we take
John. They've just got
away.
that real springy material, John, haven't they? Once they bend, you can't really straighten
Yeah,
it
we
back up.
we can have a look at that, Mayor. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. That'll be great. Okay, Councillor Duff, or Councillor Shoemaker. Well, let's you go first. You went first last time, Councillor Duff. Councillor Shoemaker, over to you.
No, thank you, and thank you for the report. And it's really good, from a service level perspective. I know we had a lot of these discussions leading into the budget, so it's really just good to really understand the services in which council deliver, what we're able to achieve with the budget that we have. I just noted that the costs estimated. Current network status on that slide. It says that council expenditure utilising internal and external resources is sitting at 376,000 with an original estimated budget of 330,000 and about 2.5 rounds of slashing completed. So there is an overspend there, and I know we have to talk about that in our budget discussions. I just wanted to understand, is that because the costs of slashing have increased on last year, or is that because of council's discussion? And I know certainly at the beginning of the year there was a mayoral directive to slash some specific roads. So I just wanted to understand, are we overspent because of a change in our service levels, or are we overspent because of an increase in the costs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's the result of our discussion early in the year to do that extra slashing during that summer period. So the way Kevin and his team manage the budget is, I think Councillor Henson said it the other day, it is seasonal for some of this work. So obviously, if Kev has spent a little bit more through that, he's trying to manage that through his OPEX budget at that point in time. So that was a result of council having that discussion around doing that, getting that extra rounds, trying to accelerate through that summer period because we had that rainfall. So I think, if I may too, I think that the graph, and this is the first time I've seen the graphs the other day, I think this is the sort of stuff that you want to see in the other reports. And just leading into the segue going into maintenance management, as we get our maintenance systems online and out, we can start to report, and we can probably start to have conversations through councils through the year around where we might be unders and overs and what services we're providing in some of these areas. So, obviously you try to work out a rough budget of what you'll need for the year, obviously based on your services, but if you're under and over, you can make some meaningful decisions around what services you delivered based on, again, your seasons and those sort of things. So going forward in the next couple of months, we'd like to start to formalise some of these processes, and I think it's a good to actually come in and actually have the chat,
Right.
if that makes sense. So
No, it's fabulous. I'd really like to acknowledge the work that's gone into this, and certainly, when I keep challenging those infrastructure reports, that's because this is what I'd really love to see. Like, I can understand this and see the service that we're providing to the community. I'd certainly like to acknowledge the work of the team. I've seen you out on the slashes, and it's incredible. Like, hats off to you and your team. I could not do your job. Pulling up and stopping and starting all the time would just drive me nuts. I just think you do an exceptional job. It's such an enormous stretch of highway, and when you look at another 480 kilometres program, that's huge. So thank you so much. Thank you for the report, and I think it certainly puts us as a council in a good position to make some informed decisions about levels of service and the affordability, what we can actually afford as a council. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, gents. Having said that, Councillor Shoemaker, there are some days in council where I wouldn't mind sitting on the slasher for a while, for a few hours, turn on the radio and just get away from the phone. But anyway, maybe one day, hey? Yeah, they do a good job, the fellas. Okay, Councillor Duff, over to you.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. What I've been finding is that the main roads, I find that they're taking, like the slashing's not getting done to my way quickly enough, and I know that it's seasonal, but what I have been led to believe, and I can stand corrected, is that we can't actually slash until it reaches a certain intervention level with the main roads. And my question is, does that then govern when we do the local roads as well? So do we, so we go out, the main roads are saying, no, you can't do it yet, you can't do it yet, now you can. So then we've already reached what I would believe is already a safety issue. And then we say, okay, yeah, we can go. So then we start doing this main roads, and then we gradually go out and do the local roads. So then we're always sort of, to my way of thinking, we seem like we're chasing our tail because we've sort of got behind the 8 ball because the main roads intervention level is so high. And then we try and catch up, we're sort of playing catch up, and then and even if we do put the 165,000, that's still only for the local roads. That's only 2 goes for the main roads. So then and the main roads are probably where we're getting the most issues in my mind. We like on that Prosson-Baduma Road only recently, I was behind a truck. It's a single lane, it's a main road, and the grass was so high, and the truck kept wanting me to go past, and I'm a courageous driver. There was no way that I was going to take over that truck because I thought, I can't because the grass is so high, it's just too dangerous. So I'm challenged by what's happening with the slashing. I think we need to change what we're doing. I acknowledge what you're doing and it's fantastic, but I'm just concerned about the fact that we always seem to have these safety issues with slashing. So I just wanted to...
Thanks, Councillor Duff. I'll intervene there. I think you've got your point across. Thank you. And before I know, Councillor Henson, you're going to talk about the rainfall and the impact on grass growth. I might be wrong, but I reckon you've got to say something about that in a minute.
I'm not
before...
going to talk about the rainfall and
So,
the impact
over
on
to
the
you.
grass. I have a question for our learned gentleman here, and perhaps take on board, but with our budgets and with the costs, and I look at 1.8, 1.7 kilometres an hour, has it ever been discussed in council that perhaps, and I might direct this at the Works Department, that perhaps a 3-point linkage on the front of tractors with running 2 slashes on a tractor, is that feasible? Is that been thought about, talked about? And I could understand there would be roadsides that...
Sorry, Councillor, can I just interject? Can I just go to Mr. CEO here?
Councillor Duff and Councillor Henson, some of the stuff that we're drifting into is really operational.
Yeah,
And certainly no criticism, please don't take it like that. We were requested to bring a report. We work within the parameters that were given by Main Roads, and I regret, Councillor Duff, that it doesn't meet your level of personal opinion. We will continue to work within the parameters that Main Roads set. It's a budget issue, it's a strategic issue, and council will set the overall budget for this program. But I'd probably just really would appreciate not drifting into the operational stuff today if we could.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and I'm happy for that question to be taken on notice, and we could perhaps talk about that later down the track.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Henson. Thanks, Mr. CEO. Very important to keep us on track here. Now, I just wanted to say that, I think the CEO's right. This is an operational issue. I know a budget issue, sorry. This is a budget issue. Councillor Duff has pointed out there are community concerns about road safety, whether if this year's been... The weather patterns are different, John, aren't they? I mean, we get rain in May now, for goodness sake. And all of a sudden, we're having to slash in May rather than do the other things that we used to do. I think John's probably sitting there thinking, the whole landscape's changed with this slashing program. And then it rains and you go hard for 3 months to try and clean it up as quickly as you can. But I guess what I'll be keen to see, as Mr. CEO said, this is a budget issue, and it's a decision for council that if you want to do a third run, it's going to be an extra 165,000. And if you want to do a third run on TMR, then that is something we would have to fund because they only fund 2 runs. So that's 656 kilometres there. Probably be good to know, Aaron, what that would cost as well. So we could maybe look at that in the budget discussions over the next month or so, if possible. We're happy for that to come back as a future report.
We have that number, Mr. Mayor. So just in line, because obviously the infrastructure budget's coming up this half. Kev's got a rough number. It's probably about an extra 90 grand that council would need to fund to do an extra round. So if that gives you context for this afternoon, if you wanted to do an extra run, you're looking at about an extra 90k. Yep.
So we're looking there and then about 165 plus 90, so about 255 in total to an extra run across the whole sealed network.
Yeah, go with that number, Mr. Mayor. That's pretty ballpark.
Okay, well that's really great. Thanks. That puts it in context, and that enables us to. I think the other thing too is I'm going to acknowledge that John would probably confirm this. The DTR network is a lot slower because you're on the highway, and I've watched the guys, there's just cars whizzing past. They have to actually stop for the cars. That's part of their workplace health and safety requirements. So, it's a decision for council. As our CEO has always said, you tell us what you want, we'll deliver it, but we're going to have to be prepared to allocate the resources. So if we want to go to 3 rounds, that's fine, but we're going to have to be prepared to fund an extra $255,000. So very much a budget discussion. Look forward to having that this afternoon and moving forward. So look, if everyone's happy with that, again, thanks very much for bringing forward the report, gentlemen. Very much appreciated. John, thanks for your attendance. Keep up the great work. We're very grateful that you do. So there's a second part here. Sorry, I've just digressed a bit. Go back to the agenda. So, yeah. So this is the second part, on the general maintenance overview now. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, I just thought I'd just give council just a brief. We've had some discussions around programming and where we are at with, particularly around our network and our response time. So I just put a brief there for council, and it's not locked in stone. What we've done is we've started to implement the Reflex system, which is the maintenance management system, which is a computer-based system where we start to log our defects and our customer requests. So if you ring up about a pothole, it goes into a system, it's inspected, so that we take a process view to maintenance. Now, what that does is we've started to implement across the Seal network, and we're aiming for the footpath network and signage between now and Christmas. What I just want to put there to council, and it's just on the back of some of the discussions we've had around potholes and signage and those things, is we're starting to build a prioritised program for council on its network, which is really a great space for us to be walking into. It does take a little while. I'll say that politely to council. Implementing a system like that and process is a big change for this organisation, but it is the way of where we need to be. What we're starting to do is build out, fortnightly and monthly programs based on the information that we have. And what we're starting to see is that we're doing coordinated programs for the pave lines and the flow cons to go and patch potholes. And what that means is we're not reacting as much to other potholes across the network as where we would have done in the past. Now, what that does is, for an example, we went up to Menham Road the other day and Iron Pot Road, and we sent a machine out there where they did a whole program. But what that's done is we didn't send a second machine because that type of the pothole was too deep for the pave line. We can get better at trying to coordinate both machines to go together. But probably just where I'm going with this with council is where you're starting to see responses in timeframes is because we're trying to put together prioritised programs around how long will it take us to get to a particular pothole. Now, just looking at the numbers, and I'll just draw council's attention to some of the backlogging that we've done, particularly on, I think it's page 69. We're starting to go through and do some valuing on some of our network. Now, I'll just be upfront with council. There's when you do a first run of inspections on a network, there's some data issues through that. There's some vetting that needs to be done. And again, I think it's to where I talked to on Monday. It's important having those experienced staff and enabling the team to build their capacity in this area and make sure we're vetting it properly. But what we're actually starting to see is on the Seal network, we're starting to see some numbers come through and what the value of the network is worth on these defects. And what that means is we're starting to value what we consider the higher priority defects. So if you can see there, we're seeing $3 million worth of defects coming through on the Seal network. Now, $3 million might sound like a lot of money, but council has quite a large Seal network for a council of our size. So, and obviously what we're looking to do is target those priority 1s and priority 2 defects. And when that question comes is why are we not able to fix, everything in what sort of time frame, whether it's a month or 6 weeks. If you think about that, if we were to fix everything in a month, we'd spend $500 to $1 million a month just to clear those on those own defects. So we work into those budget considerations. So the context of what I'm putting there to council is we've got information coming in. We're starting to build coordinated programs. So the timeframes that we're giving people is, between 3 months or 6 months, because we're starting to build those programs. What I would like us to do between now and Christmas is do another couple of runs through the network to backlog the network, and that way we can give council some better data to say, here's where we're at. We think that the time frame for the priority 1s is now 2 months. It's important for council to set time frames after it gets its value, because there's no point in us saying we do everything in 6 weeks if we can't do it. We are not required by law to fix everything inside that time frame at this point in time. Council is protected on its civil liability to program its work in line with its resources and its available budget. Because if you think about it, if you had $2 million in defects there, can you go and fix them all in a month? No, you can't, and you're not required by the law to do so. So, what I'm saying to council there is why you're seeing a change is you're starting to see maintenance programs being put together. I actually went back after the last meeting because we had some discussion around council that we're seeing 3-month timeframes, and we're also seeing 6-month timeframes and these sort of things being put back in there. I actually went and pulled a heap of customer requests from a year ago around that. Why I think that's come to council's attention is if you go back 12 months ago, we actually weren't putting any timeframes on anything. So this is the substantial change. And what happens now is you sit there and think, oh, it's going to take them 3 months to fix a pothole. Some potholes are fixed in under 3 months. It just depends on when that program is put in place. What I'm saying to council, this is the start of a journey between probably now and Christmas to get an understanding of your network and what your requirement is to put on your network. What you were seeing probably 12 months ago, and I pulled a number of responses that were sent to councillors was, thank you very much for your defect. It's been logged and it will be put on a forward patching program. There was no time frame. There was nothing. So it's just probably putting things in a little bit of perspective. And where I'm coming with councillors, obviously we've got a budget restriction we're working through. This is our first, what we call the stock take, to find out where we are from a positional point of view. And where I'd like to see us from this time next year is similar to our unsealed roads, is we can tell you when we're going to fix your defect. The biggest one for council too is probably to understand is that where we've got budget limitations, we're unable to commit to some works at this point in time unless there are priority works. And the reason for that is that we don't believe that we will have the budget at this point in time. What we would like to see us do is similar to the other service levels, is to come back as we implement the system over the next 6 months, where we can report to council and say, hey, this is what your sealed defects are worth. Here's the forward program. And I think that will provide us the best opportunity to talk to council, particularly in the next year's budget, is do we direct certain capital works to clear some of the higher value maintenance works, which will save us operating cash. So this is the first piece of putting that puzzle together. I just want to acknowledge to council, it's not a perfect science at this point in time. This is very much the start of the implementation. There's been a work that Kevin, Ramesh and Sally and our supervisors have been put together. But what we are seeing is where, the pave lines used to go from spot to spot to spot. Now they are working to a 9-day program. They have a day of float in there as well. So if there is high priority defects that are given to them, they have a program in place in front of them so that their work is becoming more planned. And what we will see is their production will increase and we will start to track them going forward. So I just want to talk. We would love to bring back further information as the system is implemented. But it's just a touch point today for council. So is that okay, Mr. Mayor?
Thanks, Aaron. That's great. Thank you. Just a couple of observations there. We're looking at a sealed network alone of 2,300 kilometres, including local and state controlled, that we take care of. Plus, we've then got another 1,500 to 1,600 of gravel network. Most of the pothole issues we get, my expectation would be on sealed. Typically, not always, but typically, P1 to P4 priorities, understand that. P1's clearly going to be on those 100k plus speed environments, wheel path, where it tracks into the wheel path and that sort of thing. Really be keen to see that work progress between now and Christmas. That sounds like a great plan. And if we can certainly try and escalate the P1s, we're talking 3 to 6 months there, but as you're talking about, try and get those P1 service levels up higher just in terms of road safety. I think the other thing to acknowledge too is that across that total network, 3,000 Ks plus DTMR, it's just not possible for the inspectors to every week get across that entire network. And I don't think out of the Civil Liability Act we'd be expected to be across every single network. I think that's, there's a joint effort there to report and make the staff aware where we come across potholes, particularly if it's a P1 type pothole that's on a 100k zone, on a wheel track, where it's heavily trafficked. We need to perhaps report that. And I'd imagine, as you said, you have a process where with that one day you can escalate those and deal with those, Aaron?
Yeah,
if that's an issue for council.
Yeah, definitely, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, appreciate the comments. I think it's the understand is that it probably takes us about 8 to 9 weeks to get across the entire network on an inspection run. It'll probably take a bit longer as we're logging. Council, at the end of the day, we're looking to inspect on a hierarchy-based program. So essentially, we're looking to inspect every road at least once a year for a defect. And what we're looking for, council is quite within its rights to use its resources to inspect on a minimum level. What we're looking to do, obviously, on our higher order roads is inspect them on a 3-month or 6-monthly basis. We really do appreciate that, again, as part of a local government authority, is you can't know every defect, and that's a society expectation. We really do rely on the community to continue to inform us through our CR system. And again, appreciate if councillors are out and about, send them through. The idea of where we'll get to eventually is that everything will go through the system, so it doesn't matter where it's generated, it will go to a central point to that maintenance team. And I think it's really important to get that workflow together so that things are prioritised. And fully, that's 100% on the mark.
Thanks, Aaron. That's great. Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, this is by far the best report to be tabled here this morning. This is big, and this is so exciting. I think we've all been sort of hanging out there in the rough seas with the waves, and I can see the calm water ahead. You know, in terms of a systematic approach, shifting our focus from a reactive response to proactive response. And I completely understand what you're saying. That's going to take time. And I think the message, certainly from my position, and I'm sure from my fellow colleagues, is that we're here with you. Like, let's do this. Certainly hungry for continuous improvement. I can just see embedding a system like this, there are enormous efficiencies to be found. I just think, and also great opportunity to improve our communication with our community, which I think will create better understanding and in turn create better expectations, clearer expectations in our community that we can actually deliver on. Because certainly in the first 12 months I've been in council, I've received a lot of phone calls from people who've had no from other, members of the council before, and do a bit of council shopping because you're new to the seat, see what answer we can get from you. So I just see this is just such an exciting project. The only question I had, and by all means go forward, kick those goals. The only question I had was just in relation to the reflex system. I just wanted to understand, only because we've spent so much money on our business systems process, is this another piece of software, or has our business systems team, are they engaged in this? How are we working together in that space is probably just the thing I really wanted to understand, because data is key, and if we're investing resources, time in creating a program and having the ability to pull data, just want to make sure it talks to our system. So that's my only question. Thank you.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, we had a look at the time we had options. There's multiple vendors in this space. There's the Reflex system. There's the Tech One. There's a system available in Tech One. We actually this system is used by, I would say, probably 80% of councils in Queensland. It is also a TMR system that's used. There is opportunity for us to probably revisit a solution in the ERP suite downstream. The best thing about this system is why we consider it fit for purpose at this point is it's more about getting your process and managing your defects correctly, as opposed to works orders of financial management at this point in time. What it does, it fits the purpose that we can go through, enter a unit rate that we have for a certain type of defect, and we can value the entire network. The other thing that this system does, it integrates with the RACUS system. So we can actually, there is a compartment now where there's a number of councils who we're in discussion with is around trying to take those two systems together to make them work, because what it allows us to do is do an inspection with the RACUS system, but also, rather than what happens a lot of times is we'll give people a list of backlog that we want them to do, and then they'll go and drive it, and they'll have a look at it. They can see it from their computer in their office. And this is where I'm probably going with council, particularly around that senior maintenance engineer, is what this allows us to do is to have our inspectors who are doing a great job, but data is key in this space. And What it allows us to do is to go through and do auditing ourselves at our computer, where you might go, I'm just pointing at Kathy. Kathy might be our inspector in her area, for example. We can go through and say, you valued $1 million in defect. Let me watch the video while I do it, and I can see what you've done. So there's a real opportunity for us at this point in time. From a business point of view, this is the fit for purpose system for us. It's not overly expensive. It's 20 grand, I think, is what we pay for it. And we can also adapt that to TMR. Downstream, we'll obviously work with Susan and her team to see what is our solution in 2 years' time. When you're implementing really fit for purpose, basic systems are key to make a technology solution that supports people and process. And I think this is the way to be.
Thanks, Aaron. Councillor Duff?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just, when you were saying about the inspection process, and you've got certain timelines that you're going to do inspections, like a main road might be once every couple of months or every. So when I'm driving around and I'm seeing potholes, and I just kind of like assume that someone has reported them. So from what I'm hearing here, that when I see a pothole, I should report it regardless, because there's no, like, because you could have inspected it 1 month ago or two, and it might be another month before you inspect it again. So the quicker that I get that into the system will be the quicker it's going to get fixed. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would encourage any person who sees a defect on the network to report that to us. The best part of what that will do, and the reason why we're also targeting this is obviously talking about customer service. What you'll find is after a period of time, that the value of the defects will go down, because if you're targeting your money on your high priority stuff, your network will improve. What that will see is that normally, in my experience, is that your customer requests will drop off in line with that. But also what will happen too is when people are encouraged to report a defect to us, they will either get answered in the way that, thank you, we didn't know about it, thanks we'll put it on program, or they'll actually get good customer service back to us to say, yeah, we do know about it, we have a plan to fix that, and we can answer them at the same time to say it's on program for next quarter or whatever it might be, which to me is a huge boost to council's reputation. It will take 6 to 12 months to get to that stage, in my opinion, but you definitely want to report stuff to us, and you want to make sure that you're getting an answer from us that either we know about it or we thank you for letting us know. We'll tell people when it's being inspected, which would be a significant change.
Thank you, through Mr Mayor. Thank you. I agree with Councillor Shoemaker that the more we can get this on track and get back to the customers and get this whole process working, the better outcomes we will get. And I also would like to say that over this last few years, we have improved 100%, and that the roads team and the way the results I'm getting, I know I've been complaining about the potholes, but just on the general customer requests that are coming back in, I am getting a lot of ones that are actually completed, and I'm getting that feedback, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Duff. It's good to hear. And I suppose the message that I'm taking out of this is that it's a work in progress in terms of developing a more scientific approach to addressing surface defects, and that we should all work together to identify particularly P1 defects and report them promptly through the customer request system. And also, councillors in your divisions work to educate your constituents as to the options for them to utilise our customer request system, and particularly when it's in relation to something that they think is a high priority defect that could cause a imminent safety issue. So thank you all. That's been a good conversation. So we've got the report there provided to simply be noted. Council notes the attached reports. Do we have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Seconder, Councillor Duff. I would say again, thank you, Councillor Duff, for pushing the issue with potholes too. It is an important issue to the community, and we'll continue to work on that. And thank you for the impetus you've given that alongside our staff. Okay, those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Rightio, we're now up to footpath cleaning at 6.7. That's 71 guidelines for cleaning of footpaths within CBD areas. And again, I know this is another one, Councillor Duff, that you've been working with the staff on. And okay, Aaron, is this one yours to run through with us? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, we've previously put up advice to council around trying to get the footpath cleaning sorted out within our CBDs. We've come back with, probably just the best one for me, Mr. Mayor, if I may, is just draw council's attention to the attachment is the best one. It has the fact sheet on there. What that does is just outlines the requirements for businesses to be able to clean their footpath. We have sought legal advice in relation to this, and what we've done is there's probably 3 or 4 different ways council could go. What we've asked to do is take the least point of resistance for the community. What our advice is at this stage is that similar to mowing your footpath, that any business can clean their footpath. They obviously need to do the things that are listed on there. No chemicals, no vinegar. I'm sorry, Councillor Duff. It's a no-go. But what it is it's a simple fact sheet for people to understand what they can do to clean their business. I would like to, I think I've recommended to council that we write to all CBD businesses and provide them with the fact sheet. They just need to put out a simple yellow sign. Now, just put council on notice that if we are looking at the footpath dining element of this, that will be a different story if they have a footpath dining permit. So we are still seeking advice because there is a prescribed activity in line with their public liability to have footpath dining. This is for people to go through and clean their footpath like they do in Mergen. What we would do is attach some advice that if they've got footpath dining, we will talk to them about that. We are looking at rolling out a common footpath dining program with Peter and his team going forward so that we can try to simplify the process, particularly on the back of the KTP, that we've got a one-stop shop where people give us, here's my fact sheet, here's my public liability, so they get a single approval. And they can say, here's what you do. To get the footpath cleaning underway, people, provided it's not in line with their footpath dining, they can go out there, they can clean the footpath. If they have concerns around their public liability, they should contact their public liability insurer. Council, at this point in time, our legal advice is that we do not require that from them. You do not require it to mow your lawn, and it is treated in the same way. At the same time, too, they need to, if they're undertaking an activity on the footpath, it's important that they manage that risk, okay? So I would encourage them to do that. But this puts it a one-stop shop for everybody. You can hose, you can clean. We recommend that you don't use a pressure cleaner. What we would prefer is that we use the pressure cleaner so that we don't damage the surfaces. Obviously, working with Peter and his team going forward, Peter is obviously looking at doing the regular clean through there. What we're budgeting for in our area is that we will go through and do a proper pressure clean at least once per year in addition to the cleaning from Parks and Gardens. And that way, if there's any surface work that need to be done, that will be undertaken by us to look to do that. The other thing is we're also looking at doing is increasing the sealer on top of the footpaths too. A lot of the manufacturers recommend that we do them every couple of years or 3 or 4 years. What I would like to see, they're not an expensive thing to do. What I would like to see us do is that we go through and do our clean through our group, and we go through at the same time either provide a sealer every 12 to 18 months through there, which would make the footpath a lot more robust, making sure council gets a return on its investment. It also makes it easier for people to keep it clean. So I think this is, again, I'll just acknowledge Kevin and particularly Aaron Kerr. He's had to work pretty hard on this one. But yeah, we look forward to really rolling this out, and it's a simple process. People can go and hose and mop and clean their footpath just like anyone else.
That's excellent. Thanks, Aaron. Now, Councillor Duff, again, this has been one of your initiatives, and I know that you've been working with the team to get this forward, so appropriately, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for the work that you've done. I know I've been nagging for a long time. And yes, so I'm very pleased that we have got a way forward, and it's a very good report. I just thinking that when we write the letter, like it'd be great to have a letter that was like maybe even from the mayor that said, you know, we really value that you would do that, and that would something to acknowledge that, you know, we understand that it's probably a council footpath, but you know, it'd be great if you helped worked with council to achieve a better outcome for everyone. So I just wanted to add that. But thank you sincerely for the work you've done on this.
Yeah, hear, Councillor Duff. Okay, look, I'm going to go to the recommendation. Councillor Shoemaker, that the committee recommend to council that council adopt the footpath cleaning guidelines and council write to all CBD businesses. Under the signature of the Mayor, Mark, that'll just be done. We'll leave it as is to CBD businesses, sorry everyone, to promote the guidelines. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff, thank you. Second, anybody? Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Okay, comments, Councillor Shoemaker? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and certainly I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Duff and the work you've done with this project. I think it's a great initiative, and the work our team have done. I can't believe vinegar has a cross next to it, the world we live in, right? It's really great to hear that the infrastructure team and community team are working together through that CBD cleaning program and what that might look like. I just had a question in terms of, I know this council, we've talked a lot about livability and service standards in terms of CBD cleaning, and I recognise that splits across both of your departments. So I'm just wondering, is it part of our budget discussions? And my apologies, I think we've just had so many discussions, if we've already been over it, but is there going to be something come back? I know we've looked at the cleaning machines. Is there going to be something come back to council around, our current service levels, similar to the slashing, what it would cost us to increase our service levels, who's responsible, and what kind of standard we're setting. I'm just, mindful. I think there's been a lot of work in both departments, and we've seen different reports through both committees. So just, would appreciate an update as to where we're at. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that will come back. That's part of the service level discussions around the park. So so we'll retouch on that tomorrow, and obviously that those cleaning machines things will impact on that. So resources to run them. But that is part of your service level. So that'll come through parks, as GME said that they're looking at the once a year, but it'll be the parks guys that'll be doing that daily clean, weekly clean, and that general maintenance.
No, excellent, thank you. I just recognise you're in control of the street sweeper, and certainly GMO May's got the Parks and Gardens crew, so it's just, great to hear that collaboration's happening internally, and I look forward to those discussions tomorrow, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you all. 7.1, LDMG, Water and Wastewater Portfolio Report. Now my pleasure to introduce Councillor Froloff to provide such. Thanks, Councillor Froloff.
Thank you, Mayor. Water and Wastewater Portfolio Report. The following are current and planned works as of the 19th of May 2021. The capital works for 2021 and the current water main replacements are as follows. Youngman Street North, trunk water main replacement. Reen Street, residential water main replacement. KTP, Alfred Street, water main replacement. Haley Street from Hodge to Scott Street, trunk residential water main replacement, and regional replacing of 1,000 water metres. Class A recycled water facility in Wandoi, construction of the new Class A recycled water facility in Wandoi, and it should be, is it being commissioned as we speak? Yeah. SCADA and cyber security updates, replacing existing SCADA to regionalise the systems, and Gordon Brook Dam's spillway design. Restriction and dam levels as of the 19th of the 5th, 2021, as all towns still remain on level 3 water restrictions. The key highlights as follows. Council continues to monitor water storage throughout this region, and current levels are Bunduma 26.2, BP Dam 8.1, Gordon Brook Dam 60.5, and Boo Bear Dam 33%. And I think, and reactive works year to date, as council staff have attended 112 sewer requests this financial year, and council staff have also attended 931 water requests for this financial year. And the completed capital works for noting is the replacement of the reservoir roof in Scott Street, Wandoi has been completed. The sewer relining with relining the pipes, manholes in Wandoi, Mergen and Nango have been completed, and the replacement of reservoir roof of Varana has also been completed. And I'd like my local disaster management and water and wastewater portfolio to be accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Do we have a seconder? Yep. Councillor Shoemaker, thank you. Okay, this is a very good report. Love getting this report. Of course, water, big issue for our region. I'm just wondering, Tim, could you just give us an update on how we're tracking in relation to allocation consumption year to date on the BRTS?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So overall, our consumption, we are looking to be about 50 meg over this year. So we did have a drop off. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough. So we'll have to work through that with the department and see how we remedy that situation.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. No doubt there's cost implications to that, but no doubt we'll see where we land come 30 June. Thank you. Any other question? Councillor Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to the dam levels, since that report was written, I see BP Dam has dropped to 7.7%. Madooma Dam has only dropped 0.1, so it's at 26.1%. I'm just curious, we had talked about, I see that we're still on level 3 water restrictions. Is there talk, do we have to discuss water restrictions shortly? Because, I know we were here 12 months, 12 months ago, but I still think this is something we should be discussing now. Thank you.
Yeah, just in terms of a time frame, gents, based on where we're at right now, where would you see that conversation happening, Aaron?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor. So just currently, we've probably been in this situation, I would say, twice since I've been here in the last 4 years. So what I would say to council is that we continue to monitor between now and Christmas. I really think whilst we see BP going down, we still hold a significant allocation within that scheme. So I think our biggest one is it's where we were last year. This is our 12 months to see where we go. At this point, obviously, we wouldn't recommend increasing restrictions in Kingaroy at this time because we want to make sure we keep that water turning through. So there's not a need for that. With the BP scheme, at this stage, we don't see that we need to increase our restrictions based on that. We still have a full allocation. What I think is council continue to monitor the situation and we respond if things change. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think BP got to about 3.5% last time. It's sat on the sevens for ages, so it's really is how I just watch and see, I suppose. So
Yeah, I think, Aaron, that utilisation of allocation by irrigators around off that BP scheme has a big impact. So I think a lot of those allocations are now back to very low levels, so you might see that the actual trend on the consumption starts to plateau out around BP, Tim, through winter.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a bit more information. What the situation where we were last time with BP Dam is vastly different to what we are now. When we were down below the 10% previously, there was no other water coming into the system, i.e. the Barambra system. Currently, and by that time, we were actually the medium priority water was cut off. Currently, the reverse is true. They've actually increased their allocation of the medium priority water. So whilst BP itself is low, the Barambra system is full. So the Sunwater have actually allowed the increase of their medium priority take at this point in time. So I guess in answer to your question, we've got the allocation in the Barker Barambra itself is full. And so therefore, by imposing water restrictions at this point in time, for want of better words, would be pointless from the town's perspectives, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, gents. Okay, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Frollo, for the report. Certainly, this report makes me very nervous every month. I just had a couple of questions, just in terms of the water quality risks with those dropping levels of all of our dams. I note, Gordon Brook is at that 60.5 due to recent rain, so that's great. But Bundoomba dropping, I just wanted to understand how we're managing our water quality risks. Are we, testing daily, checking our water quality? That's one of my questions. My other question is, I note your comment around the fact that we're 40 to 50 megalitres over our consumption this year, and you'll work with the department to remedy that. I just wonder if there's an opportunity to open up conversations around what next year might look like. If we're over this year, probably want to understand more, and certainly you probably do the modelling and the like, but, what position does this put us in next year? And are we over this year because of water quality, or are we over this year, what are the factors that have led to that? Is it increased water usage, these sorts of things, so that we can prepare for next year? There's some of the thoughts that I had from this report anyway.
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor. Good questions. For the water quality, it's not so bad at the moment because of the Gordon Brook is a lot higher. We get our problematics with our THMs is when it gets around the 50% mark. So the dilution rate of that. But you are correct with the diminishing supply in Bundoomba as well. It will create their organic THMs as against the inorganic ones that we have in Gordon Brook. So they are an issue. Excuse me. And with the increasing THMs, that does correlate with more water usage because we have to bleed the system. Going forward, because we did meet with the irrigators down Blackbutt last year, we will continue. We will actually do that earlier in this year and have a better system in place for them to know where they are, so we can hopefully spread the demand and keep that in check this year. But unfortunately, yeah, you're correct. If we have high THMs, we've got to use more water, unfortunately. Did I answer all those questions, Councillor?
Yeah, and I guess my thinking around some of these questions is what sort of contingencies or plans do we have to put in place? Like Bundoomba at 26.2%, at some point that's going to run out, and we're not getting, unless we get that rainfall, and certainly we can hope, but hope's not a strategy. So I'm probably just mindful of what's our plan in this space with water going forward. And certainly would like to hear from the Mayor as well in terms of the briefings and the discussions he had with the Minister for Manufacturing and Regional Development, Minister Glenn Butcher, and the Shadow Minister for Infrastructure, State Development, Trade and Investment, Deb Frecklington, as well, in terms of this broader discussion. But yeah, Tim, if there's any context you can provide, or GM in around how are we going to plan should, God forbid, we don't get the rain that we need.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, if I may, what we've done previously is started to engage in contingency planning in this space. Obviously, with the rainfall that we received last year, we pulled back onto some of that options. What we're looking to do, particularly over this 12 months coming forward, we've identified our water, what's the word? Continuity planning is the word I was looking for, sorry, as a continued work in progress for us over the next 12 months to make sure we've got strategies in place. Now, so with the Barker Baramba scheme, we had identified a project there which allows us to allocate access probably more water within the Weir, which was the pipeline project. So we'll continue to bring that into just as a feasibility proposal, in line with the Bundoomba program. We had previously had discussions with Stanwell just to understand not so much around trying to get HP water, but actually just understanding what their moves are. And they were quite open with us around what that looks like at different percentages. Again, what we will do over the next probably 6 months is, depending on our priorities, but we will look to re-engage with them just to understand what happens at different percentage of levels. And then that way we understand what that may look like. The biggest thing is while everyone's got a full allocation, as you know, everyone uses the water, which is what we'll continue to do. I think the big one for us, and again, it will come to a head, I believe, in summer this year where we'll know. Same scenario again. It's like Groundhog Day. It really is. I look forward to the day that we can rock in here and we see 80% on all these charts. I really do. But that will probably accelerate what our position is going forward for the next 12 months around that Christmas time onwards, to make sure that if we're starting to see 20% or 18 or 15%, what does that entail? And also, what are some of the triggers for some actions from us, particularly as officers, to what level of engagement we start to have so we can inform council on what does that plan look like. So the other one too is, Tim has just tapped me on the ear there, is one of the discussions we had previously, and obviously it fell away because of the water levels, is understanding what is the dead pool storage on some of these dams. And that's where I'll say at an officer level, we've had some great collaboration with Stanwell and Sunwater in this space, just to understand what everyone is doing. And I think that's where it's going to go going forward, is we understand some dot points of what this looks like, and then what work do we do will depend on what level of escalation we're at, if that makes sense. But is that all right, Mr. Mayor? I can't answer.
Yeah, that's good, Aaron. I mean, it's a challenging space. We don't have a crystal ball, so no matter what you do, it'll be subject to the weather conditions, of course. Look, just wanted to point a few things out here. Number one, Barker Barambah, the BBS, we've just, maybe for those that haven't got this in front of them, 424 megalitres used to date out of 1750. So even though we're probably 90% of the way through the year, the Mergen and Wandai allocation's only used 1/4 of its allocation, 24%, even though we're tracking year end. It looks like we'll have, as you said before, Tim, heaps of allocation left over in Wandai and Mergen. Proston, similarly, Proston only uses 319 out of its 500 megs, so that's going to come well in under. Kingaroy looks like it's going to come in spot on from my accountant's extrapolations. Tim, it looks like it's going to pretty well spot on there with 6 weeks to run. And Blackbutt, of course, is where the problem is. It looks like Blackbutt's going to go over by 144 meg already. It probably will increase a little bit, I guess. That's where our 40 or 50 megs is a problem on the BRTS. Yeah, okay. All right, no, that sounds good. Look, just in terms of Councillor Shoemaker's, the other thing I want to mention is congratulations and great work on the Class A recycled water facilities being commissioned at Wandai. Well done, team. That's great to see that. Supporting those sporting facilities in that community.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. They're commissioning it this week. The clubs have been notified that they won't have access to the water until we actually get the plant properly running. And then we'll be working with the golf club and the Lees club to help assist flush the sand out of the systems that from the previous treatment plant that was there.
Yeah, thanks. A great environmental and community initiative. Well done. Also, everyone, just in the report here, Councillor Frolov has presented, there's a number of projects here still ongoing in terms of the pipes under the ground, the water main replacements that are happening, particularly across Kingaroy, and the 1,000 water metres we're replacing across the whole region. So Council has inherited a lot of old water mains, and there is a very active program happening to replace those on a strategic basis. So again, thank you to the team for the work you've done there. Look, just in terms of an update, as spoken about in relation to the conversations in relation to particularly Kingaroy's water security, CEO Mark and I visited Parliament House last Tuesday, and we met with the local member and had a good conversation with her in relation to what is giving rise to the issue and what a proposed solution from our technical team is to address that. We recognise that the local member, being in opposition, has minimal capacity to influence the decision-making of government. So in light of that, we of course also met with Minister Butcher, and we received a very good response, I would say, Mr. CEO, from the new minister. He's a regional man from Gladstone. He understands water, the critical nature of water, not just for ag, but also for rural communities. And we had senior members of the department there as well, actually the most senior of all being the Director General. And I think it would be fair to say that we received a very good hearing, and the Minister showed a very keen desire to work with us, both at the political and also at the departmental level, on a collaborative basis to address the solutions and to also work collaboratively with the federal government in that regard. So overall, a good response. We'll continue to work in this space, and fingers crossed, we can come up with a good solution for the Kingaroy community. Okay, that being the case now, I think we're at the point where we need to go to the vote on this. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, let's keep skipping along. We're now up to 7.2, which is application to supply water outside the declared supply area at 82. And again, thanks very much, Aaron, Tim, your work on this. The recommendation is that the matter lay on the table until the July Infrastructure Standing Committee, and that the matter be considered in conjunction with the review of the declared water areas. I'd like to move such. I think that's a very sound recommendation. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Duff, thank you. Those in favour? Oh, sorry. Speakers for or against? Thank you, Councillor Potter.
Thank you. Now, we've laid this on the table twice so far, and I'm just wondering, because of the budget work that we're doing, whether this should actually not go to July and then actually go to the August infrastructure meeting to allow for budget discussions and things like that. Because there seems to be a lot of work that we're asking infrastructure to do right now, so I'm just wondering whether this one should be...
Happy to take advice from that.
I'm
What are your
okay with
thoughts, Tim,
that,
Aaron?
Mr. Mayor.
You won't say no to a bit more time? I know you're really you guys are under the pump at the moment. We're really grueling you over the budget. So sound recommendation, good idea. I'm happy to amend that motion that we change that to August Standing Committee. You happy with that? Second to Councillor Duff. Okay, those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. We look forward to that work. Thanks, Tim. Okay, next one is 7.3, on sale of remaining water allocation from BP Dam at 84. Tim, do you want to give us a quick report on that, and then we'll go into the recommendation? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this was in response to Councillor Schumacher's question at one of the previous standing committees. So we've done a bit of research into this, the BP excess allocation. I'd like to say it's a straightforward process of on-selling water, but it isn't. But the long and short of it is, yes, you can do it, but you can only trade it inside your allocation zone. So we are HD and HC. So by definition, the one's above the other. So by natural attrition, as soon as you release the water, it'll go downstream as well. The question of selling it, it is a public asset. So because it is a public asset, it has to go to a tender. So you can't just pick a person and sell it to, it must go for an open tender. The question that Councillor Schumacher asked was in relation to a particular person. Their actual they're in a zone called JC, and JC is outside of our trading area, so it's actually impossible to transfer the water upstream in this instance. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Tim. I'll go straight to the recommendation. That is that Council do not progress the on-sell of remaining water allocation due to, as presented, points 1 to 5. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Speakers for or against? Okay, vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Rightio. Questions on notice, 8.1 at 86. We had a few questions on notice there. The first one came in relation to what is happening with the Cherbourg Road. Isn't the council's budget to do something with that road? And there's a response there. Aaron, I might let you work through these if that's okay, and just provide a quick overview as to the answers, and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, if you're happy for me to run through. So with Cherbourg Road, we're looking at some options there for resurfacing and rehabilitation. We did have a conversation with the Cherbourg team around their expectations there. They are looking for reseal, and they're looking for some of the defects to be fixed. So we had a direct discussion with Zala post the last meeting. So they just wanted to clarify what their expectations there. What Kevin and his team will do is look for that to be considered in council's capital budget discussions coming forward. and council can make a decision whether they want to put that in the program. So we'll nominate that. We see no issues with doing the work. It makes sense. Traffic count. James has put some volumes there back in 18. You're looking at 2,000 vehicles a day on that road, so it's quite a traffic road. So it takes some, which makes sense. It's one way in, way out. So that gives you an idea of volume. So question 3, Mayor, I'm right to just keep charging through? Yeah. There's a question that we had, I believe it was from Councillor Shoemaker. We looked at the Highsville project. It was just a question around if we look at different stages. So we'll consider that. I think Councillor Duff asked us to consider that in the capital program for next year. So Kevin will have that on there as a couple of options coming forward. The Wondai Industrial Estate, I think we covered that pretty solidly today. Barker Baramba scheme, Tim just answered that one through report. And the last one there was just a traffic comparison around the Lars roads on the TMR network. Just some comparison there. Just a couple of discussions we had is looking to put out some traffic counters at different times of the year. Maybe we're not capturing the peak area sometimes, so we'll look at getting some refreshed data there. Probably just one there for council, Mayor, if I may, is the Kingaroy Barkers one there. Is we previously advised 1,000 to 1,500. That's back towards the Redmonds Road, east of Redmonds. The section we've put on there, just so council's interest there, is around 750, where we see the deficiencies on the Kingaroy Barkers Creek Road. So where you see the single lane seal sort of stuff down that end, that gives you an idea of what that volume is at that end, to keep it in a bit of context, if that makes sense. So, and that, I think that's all of them. No, sorry. I will leave the last one for Tim, because it is about sewage and
thanks,
what we
Tim.
do with the
Thanks, Aaron.
trade
Tim,
waste.
give us the update on dry sludge being sold to farmers as a fertiliser resource. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So essentially, the question was asked: could we sell it onto the farmers? The short answer is yes. Currently, we're contracted with Arkwoods. That's who we use at the moment, and but the problem, the ability to receive the waste for beneficial reuse is a regulated waste. So the receiving property has to seek the relevant approvals through the DES, and the producer and end users are required to provide analysis of the waste and the receiving areas, and meet those strict environmental conditions. So it's not a blanket no. It is possible, but it's a very rigorous. I don't like to be a naysayer, but it is a rigorous process.
Yeah, absolutely understand that. Thanks, Tim. Look, just in terms of question 6 there, I could continue to represent and advocate in relation to Kingaroy Barkers Creek Road. I think that's much better, Aaron. Thanks. That 11K section is there. The problem is where that single laid section with those shoulder drop-offs, the buses, the school buses, the grain trucks, the cattle trucks coming through there, and then Bowie Road with the grain and cotton trucks running through there, that 341, they're probably the two. We have resolved previously in council that we would look to advocate, support advocacy for those two roads moving forward on that LARS network. So, yeah, that's good information. Thanks very much. Anyone else wish to comment on any of that? Councillor Duff? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on the Cherbourg Road, there seems to be mixed messages coming from the Cherbourg Council, because yesterday the finance manager at Cherbourg, Sean, was saying to me that he believes that he can get the funding to do a full reconstruction on our section of the road, because through that Aboriginal specific funding, but he just wanted to work with our team to get some data around that. And so, I noticed here just a question, the 51,500 for pavement rehabilitation. So how much of that section will be done with that amount of money? Because that whole piece, like what Sean is saying, their finance manager, is that is just, you're sort of, like, if you resell it, you're pouring good money after bad. Like, he wants it reconstructed. So it's just mixed messages coming from that team.
And I'll deal with the officer. That same officer gave us mixed messages in that last application, and so we deal with the CEO. So I would very humbly suggest the officer deals with his CEO and his council, and we get that, so we get it consistent, so there is no mixed messages. And so if you're talking to him, we will deal with the CEO, and if he goes up through his channels, and then that way we don't get confused as to what they want. Anyway, yeah, throw to you for the technical.
Just before we go to the technical stuff, Mr. CEO, would it be appropriate that you could connect up with Zala, have that conversation CEO to CEO level? Yeah.
That's what we did last time, and we sorted out and got okay, this is what they wanted, and we got that in writing from them. So yeah, absolutely, we'll support them 100% in their applications, but we'll deal with their CEO.
That sounds like a much better, appropriate process, Councillor Duff. I'm sure you'd agree. So yeah, thanks very much, Mr. CEO. Okay, gents, Sherburgh Road, TIDS funding, rehabilitating. Noted it's a fair bit of money, but keen to hear what your thoughts are. Thank you.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, it'll come back through the capital one there. Note Mark's the CEO's comments directly from Zala and his team. We asked specifically that question, and no, they want a reseal. They want the surfacing redone. We've gone through. The actual distance of that will be varied for that cost. It is a preparatory schedule to go through, fix some of the shoulders, edge breaks, so it will be variable through the section. That will come back through the capital report when Kev comes with his program. It's changed from here to here. It's going to cost 120 grand. There's an allowance for preparatory works, and then there's the surfacing through there as well. So that will come through that through the CapEx workshop when it comes up. Thanks very much, General Manager. Mayor Sando has raised the issue with me. So if we can continue to work at the CEO level, officer level, get that communication clear, that we're on the same page in terms of what needs to be done, and then let's look at how our budget responds to that. Councillor Duff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy with that, that we work closely, like that the CEOs have the discussions. But I just, and I'm also just wanted to say that I'm really, really keen that we support that Sawpit Creek guardrail upgrade. I just think that is a safety issue, so I'm really keen to see councillors look closely at that one. Thank you.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, we will be nominating that for capital program this year. We agree. It's an important project.
Good. Thanks, Councillor, and thanks very much, General Manager. Look forward to seeing that come in the CapEx. Okay, now item 9.1. Sorry, I haven't moved to receive those. I'm trying to move through. It's clearly lunchtime. Okay, so the recommendation is that the responses to the questions raised be received and noted. Do we have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Potter. Seconder. Thanks, Councillor Duff. Those in favour? Yep, carried unanimously. Thanks all. Thanks, Mr. CEO, again for keeping me on track. I hope you don't ever have a sick day on meeting day. I would be lost indeed. Okay, now on to 9.1, the confidential section. So recommendation is that Council considers the confidential report listed below in a meeting closed to the public in accordance with section 254J of the Local Government Regulation 2012, electric vehicle charging station. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 254J, G and I of the Local Government Regulation, and the Council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government, and a matter the local government is required to keep confidential under a law or a formal arrangement with the Commonwealth or a state. Do we have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Potter. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Froloff. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Now move that we adjourn, or we close into committee, into closed session for the confidential matter. Moveth.
Rightio, thank you. Welcome back everybody online and in the room. I'd like to, the officer recommendation is the council note the report and accept the proponent's offer to contribute to the installation of an electric car charging station in the South Burnett. Do we have a mover? Councillor Froloff, seconder Councillor Henshin. Everyone in favour? Thank you. We'll bring the Mayor in.
I'll just look to close the meeting at 1:18 p.m. Everything's been attended to. Thanks everyone for a good meeting and have a good rest of day.